Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching 6th part of What If Naruto Awakens Celestial Chakra. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
It would take the Konoha Genin group 5 more hours to reach the tower after their reunion with Sasuke and Choji's miraculous recovery. Their faces were a picture of exhaustion and battle, as the examiners and staff who met them there could plainly see. Their only desire was to fall asleep for the next 24 hours, face down, in a warm, cozy bed. Sadly, a shinobi's job is never truly done. The 3 teams were escorted to meet the Anbu commander, the Jonin commander, their Jonin instructors, and the Sandaime Hokage himself for a debriefing within minutes of arriving at the tower. The superiors listened closely to Orochimaru's words and deeds as every detail was related and deliberated. In order to retrieve the memory and examine it for any additional information they might have overlooked, Ino's father, Inoichi Yamanaka, was brought in at one point. 2 hours later, teams 8 and 10 were finally dismissed, allowing them to rest and eat something well earned. Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto remained behind to continue talking with their superiors about the situation. Sarutobi said, normally, following a brief period of thoughtful silence. I would not be sharing this information with Genin, but given the sheer brazenness Orochimaru has demonstrated in targeting you 3 so close to the village as well as the fact that the Daidenshi have joined the exams, I am going to make an exception. As of this moment, I hereby give Naruto Uzumaki, Namikaze, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha security clearance for all operations and details involving Project Crimson Leaf. Understand that everything you're about to hear is classified and punishable by death if revealed. Even though it was obvious that they were taken aback by this development, the 3 champions nodded. Our recent intelligence reports have indicated high possibility that at least one of the major hidden villages participating in the exams is preparing for armed conflict with us. In short, war. Heart-clenching, Kakashi realized he was the only Jonin instructor permitted to stay. It was his hope that his students would not have to witness the atrocities of war, especially not at such a young age. He could already see their doubts and their fear. It covered their entire face. However, they would have to battle. They had given up everything for the benefit of the village, even if it meant their lives, the moment they graduated and put on their headbands. That is the shinobi way of life. All they could do was come to terms with this new reality, get ready, and move on. Orochimaru is likely responsible for this and will no doubt be a part of the upcoming attack. We have already begun our preparations. All non-mission critical away forces have been sent orders to return and emergency supplies are being stockpiled as we speak. A code gray threat alert has been issued and our patrols have been increased as well. Sakura said, shouldn't we cancel the exams then? Unfortunately, we cannot. I know Orochimaru, he has always enjoyed mentally breaking his enemies before taking any sort of decisive action, but whenever things don't go his way, he ends it quickly and without mercy. That's what's he doing now. He wouldn't have revealed himself otherwise. If we were to cancel the exams now, it would lead to disastrous results. With his mind rapidly making the connections, Sasuke remarked, so it's basically picking the lesser of 2 evils. Better that we wait and prepare so that we're better able to minimize losses as opposed to canceling the exam now and be attacked before we're ready, which would lead to far more casualties. Excellent, Sasuke. Kun, the Sandaime complimented him. You are precisely right. Orochimaru knows that we know. He wants us to prepare and in doing so, he is saying that our efforts are futile. That no matter what we do, we will still fall before him. The elderly shinobi's eyes were filled with a steel. We will prove him wrong. Every shinobi in attendance nodded. Now, tell me, the Hokage commanded, glancing at the Anbu commander and Shikaku. Do we have any more intel on which village will be attacking us? Kuri, Yuki, and Kusa have been eliminated, Shikaku said. Kiri is still recovering from the civil war and even together, Yuki and Kusa lack the necessary forces to take on a hidden village. That just leaves Otto, Kumo, and Suna. Officially, Suna is our ally, but that hasn't stopped allied villages from attacking one another in the past. There have been some odd rumors and reports lately, but it's nothing concrete. We're still looking into them. There's a good chance that Otto will be involved though. Our last known location for Orochimaru was in the Land of Sound and the Daidenshi have entered the exams under their name. However, our reports indicate that Otogakure is lacking in actual military power, so even if they are involved, it will be as a minor role. And what about Kumo? Based off what we know, they are the most likely village to attack us. They have always been fairly aggressive toward us and have never demilitarized during peace times. They've also made repeated attempts to steal our village secrets and have interfered with critical missions. But the Hokage pressed, but what, Shikaku? Yugito ni. The Reikage actually informed us that she's the Jinchuriki of the Nibi before sending her here. Our sensors have confirmed this and have reported that she is of high Chunin strength, similar to Team 7, meaning that she is qualified to be in the exams. Here, Shikaku sighed as his brilliant brain went a frenzy. That isn't typical pre-war behavior, especially from the Reikage. You hide your assets, not unveil them so blatantly. No, that alone makes me doubt that Kumo is planning on attacking us. However, even if they're not planning on attacking us, that does not mean they won't join in once the attack commences. I see. Naruto asked, grabbing everyone's attention, what about Gaara? He's the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi. Did the case cage tell you that before entering him in the exams, Gigi? No, the Sandame firmly answered. No, he did not. Well, he seemed pretty unhinged. He openly threatened to kill his teammates in front of us. And I think they're his siblings too. The Hokage turned to his Anbu commander, who had not spoken a word during their entire conversation, and said, that alone warrants closer scrutiny. Put a squad on him. I want around-the-clock surveillance, no less than 2 agents on him at any time. And make sure they exercise caution. We have no idea just how powerful this boy might be or what degree of control he has over the Ichibi. Also, send out Omega Squad to investigate those rumors at Suna. As of this moment, we must assume that they're our enemy. Shikaku, gather the council for an emergency session. Also, inform all personnel with level 6 clearance of our findings. We must prepare. Hi. Naruto asked sharply before the 2 commanders could go, what about Kabuto? Many worried looks were directed at him when he said, during the first stage, he had these cards that had classified information about all of us, including our mission records. And during our fight, Orochimaru confirmed that he was a spy. If Orochimaru was willing to reveal the identity of his spy, then it's very likely that Kabuto and his teammates have already made their escape from the village. However, on the off chance that they were not able to make contact with each other, I will have an Enbu squad stationed at the tower entrance just in case. So then, what should we do? For the moment, rest. The 3 of you fought against Asanin and lived to tell the tale. If the exams were not ongoing, I would give you all a week's leave. Unfortunately, these sort of things can happen on missions where you're forced to continue with your objective despite unforeseen circumstances. All you can do in these kind of situations is to get as much rest as possible, Sarutobi said with an understanding grin. This especially applies to you, Sasuke-kun. You have gone through quite an ordeal the past couple days with obtaining Shiki, death penalty, and repurposing Orochimaru's cursed seal. Once the exams are over, I would like our leading Fuinjutsu expert to examine it just in case. Hokage. Sama, understood, the Uchiha nodded. Excellent. You are all dismissed. Go get some food and rest. The 2 commanders vanished in a cloud of smoke, and the 3 teenagers saluted and quietly filed out of the room. The elderly Hokage was left to reflect alone as a result. He sighed and said something out loud after giving it some thought. How many Suna? Nins know that technique? At last count, 8, a deep voice said, pointing to his left. The shadowy figure of the Yugure commander materialized. I'll have Division 2 sent out immediately. We'll be ready to take them out if necessary. Good, I am getting way too old for this shit. The Yugure commander laughed and said, understatement of the century, old man, before disappearing and leaving the elderly Hokage to think on his own. 30. 7 hours later, Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke were standing in front of the Hokage and the examiners with 13 other teams. It appeared that there would be several preliminary matches to determine who would move on to the next round. Sadly, despite consuming celestial food and receiving Naruto's holy chakra treatments, Team 7 was still not entirely well. However, they ought to be alright as long as they didn't have to battle any Daidenshi or Jinchuriki. Their Jonin instructors were present, at least. Even the Daidenshi couldn't be too careless with the Sandame and so many formidable shinobi in attendance. They would die in an instant. Naruto was positioned to observe that the elite Jonin were arranged in a strategic manner, with each one of them positioned equally apart on the balcony. Immediately behind them and closest to the foreign Jonin instructors was Kakashi, the strongest of them all, with Kurenai and Asuma on his left and Guy and Zabuza on his right. Hold on, what? Zabuza? How on earth was he even in this place? Why was he looking so happy? Naruto followed his gaze, and a few rows below where he was standing, he saw a team of Konoha genin. He noticed that all three were dressed in masks resembling those of Hunter Nins, but he was particularly drawn to one. It seems like I've seen that mask before, Naruto thought to himself as he attempted to improve his view without shifting positions. The shinobi's gender and a striking resemblance to herself were the only things he could really make out. However, where? Suddenly, as if sensing his gaze, the kunoichi turned. When their gaze met, Naruto's curiosity grew at once. Her body language showed that she was amused. She knew he recognized her and that he was unable to identify her identity. So she reached up and shifted her mask to the side with a purposeful coyness. Naruto's gaze expanded. Haku-chan. Why was she in this place? Hold on, stupid query. She was obviously here, along with everyone else, to become a chunin, so how had he missed the fact that she would be taking the exam? Looking back, the angel saw that they had been so busy lately that he had forgotten to ask the beautiful woman with raven hair what rank she had been assigned when she enlisted in the shinobi forces. Oh, so she was turned into a genin? Grinning at the girl, he thought. Then his eyes shifted to the other ice users. I'm sure Kira became a genin too if Haku became one. Who's that guy standing between them? She's probably the one at the end. Before he had a chance to consider the situation further, Anko, sporting her signature smirk, moved forward. Well, I have to admit. I wasn't expecting so many of you to survive my playground, said the examiner. But, you did, so congratulations. You should all be proud of yourself for getting this far. You've proven that you possess both the ability and the mindset to survive difficult situations while being trusted with classified information. There are all qualities chunin must have in the real world. Now, before we proceed any further, Hokage Sama will explain the true reason behind the exams and the third stage. The Hokage remained silent for a while. Rather, he silently watched all 36 chunin aspirants, evaluating each one in a way that left them all feeling utterly exposed. It felt like all of the Daidenshi and Jinchuriki's flaws and strengths had suddenly come to light. They were aware at that precise moment that they would not prevail in a fight with the elderly man. It was a humiliating event. After a few tense moments, he finally said something. Welcome and congratulations to each and every one of you for making it this far in the chunin selection exams. You have made your villages proud and have proven that you are truly the best they have to offer. That made a few of the genin smile. Now, I am sure many of you are wondering what Anko San meant when she said, the true reason behind the exams. It's simple really, contrary to what many of you might think, the exams are not designed to just determine which genin is qualified to become a chunin. The truth is that these exams are a simulation of war, Sarutobi said as she received various looks of confusion. A village's strength and economy is determined not just by the number of capable shinobi, but also from proving that our strength is above that of any other opposing village, whether there are allies or not. By participating in the chunin selection exams, you are representing your village's prestige and future. There will be many leaders and influential individuals from all across the world watching the third stage. These people make up the clientele for your countries. By demonstrating superior strength over your competitors, you are proving that your village and its shinobi are better than the others. This makes other countries wary of attacking and entices more clients. Remember, the strength of a country depends on the strength of its hidden village. And the strength of a hidden village is determined by the strength of its shinobi. And a shinobi's true strength can only be seen and grown in life and death battles. The Sandame smiled as a look of understanding blossomed on the faces of the gathered genin. He started to say something else, but another shinobi moved forward and bowed before him. Apologies, Hokage Sama, but as the proctor for the third stage of the chunin selection exams, if I could? By all means. The shinobi straightened and turned, showing a face that Kira, Haku, and Team 7 knew immediately. Hayate Gecko, Yugo's adoptive father and fiancé of Yugo. The man showed no symptoms of his prior illness as he stood tall. Eventually, after several months, Naruto's healing was made possible by his holy chakra. Every free breath he took now felt like a fresh start. He was obviously enjoying life to the fullest, and he approached his current responsibilities with a palpable passion. Welcome. My name is Hayate Gecko. I am the proctor for the third stage of the Chunin selection exams. Now, normally, we would simply explain the next stage and you would all be free to go, but unfortunately, that isn't going to be the case here. It seems that the first 2 stages were too easy, so we're going to have preliminary matches to reduce the numbers of participants in the final stage, the Tokubetsu Jonin explained. The matches will be 1 on 1, with your opponents being chosen at random. There are basically no rules. You fight until one of you is knocked out, dies, or admits defeat. I will be referee and you will obey my commands. If I see that a clear winner has been established and I say stop, you will do as I say or we'll be forced to take action. Is that understood? Every genin nodded. Good. Now, at this point, if you do not wish to continue on with this exam for whatever reason, please raise your hand. Understand that this is an individual decision and will not affect the rest of your team if you decide to quit, so speak now. Nobody said anything. The electronic scoreboard above them started to rapidly cycle through names before settling on 2. Very well. Then let us proceed. Alright. Heeso Keiyaku and Mishi Aramaki, step forward. Everyone else, please proceed to the upper balcony so that our combatants can begin. As the 2 fighters faced each other in the center of the arena, the rest of the genin hurried up the stairs to join their respective Jonin instructors. As it happened, Haku and Kira's enigmatic teammate was Heeso Keiyaku. He had unkempt black hair, was comparatively tall, and was dressed in the uniform of Konoha's infantry, plus an armored black trenchcoat. Like his teammates, he wore a white mask resembling a hunter. Nin, but instead of the red markings seen on Kira and Haku's mask, his had blue swirls. Overall, not much of the other genin were present, not even his opponent, the unremarkable Kumo. Nin Mishi Aramaki. Might learn more about him. Hayate raised his hands once everyone was positioned and the 2 fighters in place. You both ready? They gave a nod. Okay. Hajime. Mishi took the lead. In less than a second, the Kumo. Nin took a brace of shuriken out of his weapon pouch with practiced ease, sending them flying toward Heeso. Then, in a sudden burst of speed, he vanished and tried to hit his opponent from behind while he was distracted, but it was a complete failure as Heeso materialized a shield out of his forearm bracer. He easily avoided Mishi's attack while the shield shielded him from the projectiles. Heeso remarked, "Nice try," and spun to bash his shield against the hastily raised guard of the Kumo. Nin. AAARRRGGGHHH. But not good enough. Mishi stumbled back, his arm covered in blood, his head spinning from the agony. Raising his arm to block Heeso's attack had been instinctive, but he had forgotten that his shuriken were still lodged in his opponent's shield. He had to pay a heavy price for such an idiotic error. I suggest you surrender, Mishi. San. Without your arm, you cannot make hand seals and you're bleeding quite heavily. If you continue, I'd wager you have no more than 2 minutes before you pass out. Mishi yelled back, drawing a kunai, that just means I have to beat you before those 2 minutes are up. He launched a downward swipe at his opponent, but Heeso stepped in front of him without seeming to notice. The Kumo. Nin was unfazed and launched another attack after that, swinging his weapon ferociously, but his opponent managed to evade his blow. It was exasperating. Damn it. Stay still. Everyone could see that Mishi was growing irritated. His anger and blood loss had taken their toll, and his once sharp moves had become sloppy. After 30 seconds, Heeso didn't even bother dodging any of the Kumo. Nin's poor swings. After avoiding yet another erratic swing, the mysterious Konoha. Nin finally made the decision to spare what little dignity remained of his opponent and put an end to the fight with a quick chop to Mishi's neck. He broke down. Hayate declared, Hitsun Keiyaku as the winner. Before phoning the ambulance. After raising his fist in triumph, the masked shinobi went up to the balcony to join his teammates, who had both taken off their masks and were now interacting with Team 7. Not wishing to appear impolite, Heeso reached up and removed his own mask with ease, exposing an angular face and dark blue eyes that complemented his shaggy black hair. The teenage kunoichi in the room gave him more than a few approving looks. Kira and Haku said, "Congratulations, Heeso," and Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura agreed. He grinned and said, "Thank you," although it seemed more aimed at Haku than anyone else. At that point, he focused on Team 7. I have to say, I'm surprised this is our first meeting. I feel like I already know the 3 of you after hearing so much from Kira, San and Haku. Chan. He gave a bow. Heeso Keiyaku, at your service. It's nice to meet you, said the angel. That was an impressive fight you had down there. Thank you, though it really wasn't much. On the contrary, the fact that you were able to end it as quickly and efficiently as you did with minimal effort speaks volumes of your skills. I hope we can spar someday in the near future. Heeso said, I think I'd like that, with an odd sparkle in his eye. But not until after the exams, of course. Of course. The second match is about to start, Hayate declared. Sabaku no Gaara, Takeshi Ito, come forward. Gaara vanished into a whirlwind of sand and then resurfaced in the arena. He was waiting impatiently for his opponent, who in a moment of pure stupidity and arrogance, took his time swaggering down the stairs, a mad look of bloodlust in his eyes. Afterwards, he would certainly pay for that. At last, the two shinobi prepared by raising their hands in the middle of the arena. Combatants ready? Hell yeah. Get on with it. TCH, kids, Hajime. Takeshi felt an electric current surge through his hands the instant the proctor signaled them to proceed. The sensation of it crackling and sparking against his skin was followed by a blinding burst of blue lightning as he released the collected power. Raiden. Shirai, lightning release, lightning strike. Whack. A deafening explosion of electricity engulfed Takeshi's opponent as the lightning strike struck its target exactly. The Kumo. Nin grinned and said, there's no way he's still standing after that. Oi. Proctor. San. Call the match. Even if he's alive, he's definitely won't be getting up. Hayate asked, gesturing to the smoke that was starting to clear, you sure about that? The sight of the wall of sand that had shielded Gaara from his attack made Takeshi's blood run cold. All he had to show for dedicating a quarter of his power to that ninjutsu was a tiny crater in the redhead's wall. It hadn't even managed to penetrate. Unthinkable, Takeshi muttered. Even worse, his opponent gave no indication that he was trying hard. Is that it? Frowned the Jinchuriki. Snapping out of it, the Kumo. Nin roared, not by a long shot. His hands crackled with power again, but this time it was producing a notably larger amount of electricity. Let's see you handle the upgraded version. He exclaimed. He struck the air with his hands, forming a spear of pure lightning. Raiden. Raiden no Yari, lightning release, javelin of thunder and lightning. Still, it was insufficient. His attack lacked the necessary power to carry through and hit its target, barely managing to breach Gaara's defense. No. The Kumo. Nin's greatest technique vanished like his prospects of advancement, leaving him speechless and staring in shock. That's impossible. Gaara roared, so weak. Allowing his barrier of defense to collapse onto the earth. A dark glint came into the boy's eyes in the sand, as if sensing its user's disillusionment with his opponent's strength, started to swirl around the redhead agitatedly. Sand talons protruded from his gourd and slashed out, gouging deep trenches into the stone floor. Mother. Are you sure? Will he sat you? Mother speaks, mother hungers, mother wants your blood. Abruptly, dozens of sand tendrils shot forth, slamming into the ground where Takeshi had been moments before. Shit, 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 shit. With a curse, the Kumo. Nin dove to the side in time to evade yet another sand tendril. He had to get some distance between them, and being under fire was making that difficult. And throughout it all, Gaara had not moved an inch. This isn't helping me at all. I require a strategy. Pulling out a kunai to cut a tendril that had gotten a bit too close, he thought to himself. After that, he added a few explosive tags to his weapon and threw it at his opponent, hoping that this would give him at least a brief window of opportunity. Schluck. Pain. A searing, white, hot pain that stopped his thoughts in their tracks. A tendril of sand crept in and impaled Takeshi through his side during the brief moment he had left to attach the tags and throw his weapon. He could feel the individual sand grains gnawing away at his insides, causing his body to erupt in waves of pain. Gia. Yes. Gaara exclaimed, his expression suddenly bursting with ecstasy and lust for blood. He didn't even appear to notice the explosion that followed or that his sand shielded him from his enemy's kunai. Right now, he was only concerned with his mother, who he loved, and the blood that was seeping into his sand. More. Give me more. Give her more. Show us more blood. Mother demands it. 3 more tendrils of sand appeared at Gaara's side, and she made a gesture like a claw before they shot out and impaled Takeshi through his stomach and leg. The redhead was unfazed by the Kumo. Nin's agonized screams as his blood spattered across the floor and bled into his attacker's sand. In fact, it drove him even more insane. That's it. Scream. Prove our existence. Give us more. More. He abruptly stopped. Gaara literally stopped in mid-sentence and took on a distant expression. His sand had ceased to move as well. Takeshi managed to force himself to think clearly enough to draw a kunai and sever the tendrils that were still impaled in his body, despite the extreme pain and blood loss. They crumbled, the chakra controlling them cut, and the kumo. Nin fell to the ground in an indecent heap. This is it, he concluded. Takeshi realized his life was lost because of how severe his wounds were. There was no chance in hell that he would live to see tomorrow, but if he was going down, his opponent was going down with him, by all means. He refused to allow his fellow kumo Nin to confront this monster. One final push. Come on. His hands glowed with electricity again. Nothing was going to stop him from dying here, today. Not the Hokage, not the Proctor, not his teammates, nothing. He would defeat the monster in front of him, finish the job with his head held high, and then die. This would be Takeshi Ito's last act as Kumogakure's genin. Raiden. Raiden no Yari, lightning release, javelin of thunder and lightning. May it always be recalled. The lightning spear was easily twice as large as his previous blow. He had thrown all of his remaining strength into it. That attack had enough juice to pierce through a solid block of rock. He would have to be vulnerable, with his opponent's attention in La La Land, surely? Whack. Takeshi prayed, please. Please let it end here. It was not meant to be. No. Between him and his objective, a massive wall of sand had formed, several times thicker than the previous ones. It acted as though it had somehow sensed the strength of the approaching attack and adjusted itself accordingly. He was unsuccessful. For the sake of his fellow kumo Nin, Takeshi had been unable to defeat the monster in front of him. Now the sand was shifting. It gathered, like a submissive pet, at the feet of the Suna. Nin. You. The insomniac said with an even more maniacal gleam in his eyes. He was done talking to his imaginary mother in his head. His dark smile gave way to a dark one. You have fed mother well. Your blood has filled her, he said. She's not hungry anymore, she's thirsty. Come. He bellowed as he advanced toward his defeated opponent. Quench her thirst. Kira yelled, W. What is he doing? As Gaara moved closer to his target. Takeshi was obviously afraid, but he was trying not to show it. His face was full of defiance even as Gaara lifted him above the floor and took a vice like hold on his neck. Die, Sabaku no Kawaki, Desert's Thirst. What followed would remain etched in the audience's memories for all time. It was terrifying. Takeshi literally started to wither away in front of their eyes. The kumo Nin's screams took precedence over his eyes narrowing, his skin turning dry and wrinkly, and his once muscular body shrinking to nothing more than skin and bones. They described an experience so excruciating and agonizing that none of the people in the room could possibly fathom it. It was pure torture. And the screams just stopped, very suddenly. They simply stopped talking. Ito Takeshi was deceased. A shriveled up husk was all that was left of the once haughty and conceited genin from Kumogakure who, in his last moments, would have made any cage proud. Even though he was gone, Gaara wasn't done with him yet. The Suna. Nin's face broke into an uncharacteristically ecstatic smile that looked just wrong. Gleefully and slowly, the Jinchuriki performed a series of seals with one hand, then tightened his hold on the husk that had once been his opponent. Sabaku no Doka, Desert Assimilation. Every shinobi and kunoichi in the room saw and remembered a horrifying sight for the second time that day. When Neji, Hinata, and Sasuke gasped in terror, everyone looked more closely before flinching away in shock. At first, they didn't see anything. Because Takeshi's body was disintegrating bit by bit. Initially, it affected his skin, then his clothes, and ultimately, everything at once. There was nothing anyone could do to stop him from falling apart. Gaara manipulated Takeshi Ito into the gourd on his back, and in a matter of seconds, Takeshi Ito was reduced to nothing more than a pile of sand at his disposal. W. Winner. Sabaku no Gaara. Exclaimed Hayate, viewing the Jinchuriki with caution. He felt a great sense of relief when the Suna Nin made a sudden appearance on the balcony through teleportation, causing several genin and even a few of the less powerful jonin to retreat. As Kira breathed, she unintentionally spoke for everyone when she said, H. He turned that Kumo Nin into sand. How did he do that? Naruto scowled. The angel explained, drawing wide-eyed looks of horrified shock, Sabaku no Gaara. His power and even his name revolves around the desert. Unparalleled control over sand and the ability to wither away anything he touches through the absorption of moisture. Basically, he kills through dehydration and then uses sand to grind away the body into dust. Kira insisted, how the hell do you know that? Sasuke, Sakura, and I met Gaara before the exams. He was standing on a tree and when he left, it was dead. All the leaves had disintegrated into dust and the bark was dry and falling apart. Wasn't that big of a leap to figure out what his abilities were. So, all he has to do is touch you, and you're screwed, right? Yeah, basically. Geez, those techniques are way too powerful. He could probably take down Anbu and Jonin by himself. Sadly, the elite Jonin present in the room and the Sandaime Hokage had already realized how true that was. They also realized that Gaara would probably be involved in Sanagakure's attack if that was indeed their plan. Put simply, they had to find a way to eliminate him before it was too late. The third match will now commence. Would Tenten Higurashi and Ino Yamanaka please come down? As the two kunoichi took their positions, Naruto remarked, this should be interesting. Ino technically has the advantage in fighting styles, but Tenten has an extra year of experience over her. There's also the fact that they've been meeting up between missions and sparring together, so they already know each other's fighting styles. So it could go either way, Sasuke remarked. Who do you think will win? Probably Tenten. She's smart. Yeah, you're probably right. Who do you think we'll fight? Looks totally random, so I have no idea. Let's just hope we don't end up facing any of the Daidenshi. We're in no shape to fight them now. Agreed. You know, we might end up facing each other. Scared I'll kick your ass? You wish. We'll see if it comes to that. Personally, I think you should be more worried about Sakura. The Uchiha asked, his head tilted to the side in perplexity. What do you mean? Well, if she ends up being your opponent, you're going to lose not just the match, but also all your virginities. Fuck. You didn't think of that, did you? I am so screwed. Yup, and not just in the ass. Fuck. Keep that up and Sakura might think you're asking for it. You're lucky she hasn't been paying attention. Shutting up now. Naruto smiled. In the meantime, the fight between the two Konoha kunoichi had just started down in the arena. In contrast to the earlier matches, both girls attempted to take the lead as soon as the signal was given. They charged and collided in that moment, but their shuriken clashed in midair and clattered onto the ground. Ino launched the initial attack. After feinting with several quick jabs, she attempted a series of high kicks and low sweeps, but a strong defense stopped her. Tenten delivered a 1-2 punch that the Yamanaka parried, then leapt back just in time to avoid the kunai that the weapon's mistress had been hiding until the very last second. Ino grinned and remarked, we've sparred dozens of times now, Tenten-chan. Tricks like that aren't going to work on me. The blonde chuckled. Just making sure you're staying on your toes, Ino-chan. Everyone had been a little taken aback to find that the two kunoichi got along, especially considering how different their personalities were from one another. Maybe it had to do with their mutual annoyance at their more eccentric teammates, or maybe there was some merit to the adage that opposites attract. For whatever reason, they clicked, and ever since, it was common to see them together, whether they were hanging out or engaging in some friendly sparring on the training field. They were now completely familiar with each other's fighting techniques. Genpo. Aikigurushi, illusionary art, breathless. Tenten leapt aside, avoiding the illusion her opponent had created even though there was no warning. After that, she struck back with a brace of shuriken, all of which were evaded or deflected, and then she charged back into close quarters fighting. Her initial blows and jabs were sidestepped, but the spinning hook kick that followed found its mark and struck Ino in the cheek, sending the blonde girl sprawling to the ground and screaming in agony. The weapon's mistress then moved quickly to deliver an axe kick to end the fight, but her opponent rolled away to create much needed distance between them. Tenten grinned. If my tricks don't work on you, what makes you think yours will work on me? I'm the one you tested all those genjutsu on, said the more senior kunoichi. I know when you're about to use them, even if you're not using any seals. Ino couldn't help but smile at her friend's remark despite the pain in her jaw. Guess I'll have to figure out another way to beat you. You can try. The brunette was armed in an instant, and there was a puff of smoke. Now, come on. With a quick flick of her kunai, Ino was able to block Tenten's overhead bow strike, but even though she had anticipated the low jab to her gut, she was too slow to respond in kind. Luckily, it hadn't been a particularly powerful blow, and she recovered quickly enough to block a flurry of wide, sweeping swings. Tenten struck repeatedly, slamming her staff against Ino's barriers but never managing to get past them. The weapon's mistress saw this and took a step back, whirling her weapon as she went, then abruptly swerved to the side, attempting a side thrust. As Ino moved to block the blow right away, her opponent's weapon vanished and was replaced with a sickle, leaving her with nothing to block but air. What th? Ah! The new blade went through Ino's side and forearm, cutting a shallow wound. Tenten took advantage of the girl's stumble to deliver a second hook kick to her face, instantly knocking her off her feet. Ino fell to the ground for the second time today, but this time, more than just her jaw ached. It was painful to move because her side burned, but the real issue was the cut on her forearm. Tenten's strike had been precise and surgical. She had cut the muscles so that if she saw a doctor, she would recover completely, but in the interim, her arm was useless. She was not about to give up, though. Tenten was aware of this. Regaining her balance, Ino threw the kunai she was holding towards Tenten, causing her opponent to halt her attack and divert the projectile. In that split second, Ino pulled out another brace of shuriken and let them fly, knowing full well that her opponent would probably deflect them, but taking the risk to buy herself some valuable time to charge her chakra. Tenten was not an idiot, and it didn't take a genius to figure out the girl's plan. She also knew that their battle was over if the Yamanaka managed to cast Ikigurushi, breathless, on her. Hence, Tenten used her expert weaponry and pinpoint accuracy to catch one of the shuriken by the hole with her sickle and then send it flying back at its owner, rather than dodging or deflecting the flying projectiles. Ino didn't anticipate it. Ah! Ino was on the ground with a shuriken embedded in her leg when she suddenly turned to cast her illusion. Some of her tendons had been cut. It was a simple repair for the medical professionals, but the wound was so severe that she knew she was done. Their altercation was ended. She faced the proctor now. I give up. Hayate gave a nod. Winner by forfeit, Tenten Higurashi. Guy exclaimed, dazzled everyone with his signature good. Guy's stance, Yosh. Well done, Tenten. You truly in the springtime of youth. Lee, of course, copied him, proudly yelling the same words at such a decibel level that Gaara's sand could be felt vibrating across the room. Jinchuriki was left wondering if feeding Shukaku their blood would be harmful to its well-being. Tenten, who had a year's experience, disregarded them and reached out to hold her friend's hand. You did really well. I still can't defeat you, though, the dazzling blonde grinned. One day. Tenten grinned in return. Maybe one day. Ino was taken away by the medics to receive treatment for her wounds a minute later, after her friends had showered her with praise for a well-fought battle, while Tenten, having retrieved all of her weapons, went back to her teammates on the balcony. It's time for the following game. Shino Aburame, Masheru Sanrio, please report down to the arena. Masheru was a Kiri genin. He had brown hair, beautiful black eyes, and an all-around unattractive appearance. That is, until people found out about his lecherous habits. They would then only desire to murder him. Masheru was still openly staring at every female in the room, including the Jonin, as he descended the stairs, even in the face of widespread intent to kill. Even worse, the little tent in his pants revealed his exact thoughts to everyone. Aware of all this, Shino could almost feel the kunoichi in the room pleading with him to take the lecherous shinobi's place and beat him to within an inch of his life. And to be completely honest with himself, he didn't really mind about that, mainly because the pervert was staring at his Jonin instructor as well as his teammate. Indeed, the prick was going to have to pay. Hajime. Shino extended his arms and released a swarm of glowing fireflies that spread quickly throughout the room as soon as the proctor gave the all-clear. Initially, a group of them appeared to gather in particular locations, and then they approached the still gullible person and clung to his back. This is too simple. Maybe I should tell him he's about to lose. Shino shrugged and continued. Excuse me, Sanrio. San? With a blink, the pervert turned to face his adversary. In case you are unaware, the match has started. The Kiri Nin grinned and turned to face the women in the room, asking, "Ho? I'd better get this over with then. The sooner I kick your ass, the sooner I can sweet talk some of these ladies into letting me in their pants. You Konoha. Nin sure have some really hot numbers here, especially that Jonin up there. She your sensei?" Shino scowled. Kaiten. Hotaru Shugo. Bakuhatsu. Fire release. Firefly gathering. Explode. The story that unfolded next should serve as a warning to everyone about the dangers of upsetting an Aburame when they have a swarm of exploding fireflies at their disposal. Whack. Masheru was suddenly soaring through the skies, a teakettle tumbling over his ass. The bugs had exploded on his back, scorching his skin and sending him hurtling toward a cluster of glowing bugs not far away. The bugs exploded as Masheru was about to pass through the swarm and strike the wall behind it, sending him hurtling toward yet another swarm before that one blew up as well. Whack. Ga. Whack. Aarrgghh. Whack. Iya. Whack. For the next 2 minutes, Masheru was repeatedly blasted by explosions sideways, back and forth, and throughout the entire room. All the Kiri Nin could feel was pain when the final swarm exploded and he was finally able to collapse onto the ground. His body had been burned in every inch. He was bruised and battered in every muscle, but he would live. Even with the abundance of it, Shino had taken care to weaken the explosions so they only caused harm rather than death. I hope the pervert learned his lesson. For the record, though, let me say this: never look at my sensei or my teammate like that again. Masheru went dark. Winner. Shino Aburame. How pitiful that was, murmured Naruto. With a feral smirk, Kira added, but oh so satisfying. Did you see the way that pervert was undressing us girls with his eyes? Gross. Now, Hayate declared, the 5th match will begin. Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze, Miyuki Hyoga, please come down to the arena. Sakura yelled, kick her ass, Naruto. And raised her fist in the air. Dobi, I'll never forgive you if you lose, Sasuke smirked. Dryly, Naruto remarked, thanks for the vote of confidence, ya bastard. Despite this, he was beaming with excitement and attempted to jump over the rail, but was stopped by a gentle touch. What's up, Haku? Chan? The ice user appeared to be undecided for a brief moment before she seemed to get brave and leaned in. Whispering, good luck, Naruto. Kun, Haku gave him a chaste kiss on the cheek. Looking at the blushing brunette, Naruto instantly turned red and spluttered, unable to think of anything to say. Whoa, did it get hot in here, or was he the only one? He gave a throat clearing. Naruto responded to the girl's embarrassed smile with his own and leapt off the balcony, wisely ignoring the sly grins that Kira, Zabuza, his mental tenants, and the rest of his team were sporting. Right, thanks, Haku. Chan. But he did not miss Heeso's expression of unadulterated jealousy. Naruto thought, he must have feelings for her, but he quickly shook his head. I can't consider that right now. I have a battle to win. Yukigakure's genin, Miyuki Hyoga. Naruto could tell this fight would not be simple as soon as he saw his opponent. The Kunoichi carried herself with a confidence that betrayed her obvious self. Assurance. She didn't come across as conceited, though. Rather, this girl was aware of her advantages and disadvantages. If the swords strapped to her hips were any indication, she was a skilled fighter in addition to being a shinobi. Furthermore, Miyuki was extremely attractive. Her silvery white hair, cold amethyst eyes, and heart-shaped face were all accentuated by her outfit, which consisted of an armored legging, boots, and a light blue kimono. Her good looks were spoiled by the hatred that was burning in her eyes and the scowl that was on her lips. And all of it was aimed at Naruto. What did I do? Miyuki's teammates were watching the two square off from up on the balcony. The lone male member of the group exclaimed, so that's Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze, the angel of death. TCH, it doesn't matter. The kid's screwed. He seemed to be a few years older than the rookies from Konoha and was of average height. Though his sleek white hair covered it, he had a scar on his left cheek that almost reached his eye and down to his neck. He had a long metal staff strapped to his back and a light blue sash wrapped around his waist. He was wearing slacks and a sleeveless muscle shirt. Ya no, I actually feel bad for him, Miyuki hates him. She's going to do everything she can to take him out. The girl with blue hair next to him muttered, that's a shame. She wore the exact same attire as her teammate below, albeit with a deeper shade of blue. He's kinda cute. Nami. You're drooling, her colleague made fun of her. Nami, being the responsible girl that she was, responded by sticking out her tongue. Shut up, Shiro. Kun. Miyuki was back in the arena, glaring. Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze, the angel of death. An eyebrow was raised by the angel. You've heard of me. She responded, of course I have, disobeying the proctor's cue to start. According to the bingo book, you can use Hayate ninjutsu, correct? Yes, why do you ask? To everyone's surprise, Miyuki declared, I want to set some conditions for our fight. We will only use Hayate ninjutsu, taijutsu, and kenjutsu. If either of us break that rule, the user loses. Is that agreeable? Naruto scowled at her request, knowing that complying with her demands would drastically curtail his powers. And why should I accept? If you've really read my bingo book entry, then you should know that those conditions cut my abilities down to a third of what they should be. I would be at a disadvantage while you'd still be at full strength. Miyuki questioned, what? Think you'll lose without your bloodline? The girl scowled when she realized her taunt was not having the desired effect. If your bingo book entry is to be believed, you graduated from the academy 9 months ago. And yet, somehow, you've become internationally recognized as the angel of death with a fucking engage with caution advisory from some of the weaker countries out there. So? Why should that matter to you? Miyuki was even more enraged by her opponent's callous remarks. She growled, you don't deserve to be recognized. The only reason why you're feared and considered strong is because of your Kekkei Genkai. It's always been like this, since the beginning. The shinobi with Kekkei Genkai are valued more and recognized over people like me, the ones who have to work ourselves to the bone to get even scraps. Her cool demeanor had disappeared and only her rage stayed. I'll prove to everyone right here, right now, that without your Kekkei Genkai, you're nothing. Naruto needed all of his self-control not to lose it in response to Miyuki's speech. It was obvious that the girl was upset about this, but that did not excuse her from venting her frustration on him. It was fortunate for her that he hadn't let Byako loose to silence her. Calm yourself, Naruto. Kun. She's trying to anger you. When Naruto heard Risei's calming, melodic voice, he made himself quiet. You're accurate. Regards, Rei-chan. She's upset. No doubt, there is a story behind this. Do you really believe that someone with a Kekkei Genkai caused her to be overlooked? It's quite possible. Even likely. To be fair, she isn't entirely incorrect. It should come as no surprise that shinobi with Kekkei Genkai have always been valued higher than those without. The more weapons and tools we have at our disposal, the more likely it is that we will succeed and survive as shinobi. Even though it is unfair to the regular forces, shinobi with Kekkei Genkai essentially have an extra tool at their disposal from birth, so it makes sense that they would be valued more. Though I can see where she's coming from, still. Naruto gave his opponent a glare. You must think I'm stupid if you really thought I'd accept your conditions. Didn't you hear what Hokage-sama said? When you put on that headband, you swore an oath to cast aside everything for the sake of your country. That includes personal glory and pride. You think this is about glory? A shinobi should always use everything at their disposal to fight and survive. That includes Kekkei Genkai if we have one. If you're as good as you think you are, then you should already know this. I am not giving up my birthright just to appease your misplaced pride. That completed it. Miyuki let out a shriek of unadulterated rage, hurled her swords across the room, and met her opponent halfway. The force of their blades slamming into each other caused many of the genin on the balcony to unconsciously back away as they clashed. In an instant, Miyuki took control of the battle. The kunoichi had trained with her swords extensively during her nearly 2 years as a genin. And it was evident in her wild, strong swings, which struck Naruto's defense with the force of a hammer, causing his hands to shake in an attempt to defend himself. Miyuki growled, is this it, Namikaze? Is this the best you can do? Naruto snarled. He vanished in a flash, only to reappear behind Miyuki, his sword already in mid-swing. However, the Yuki Nin had seen the angel's move coming and swiftly flipped one blade into a reverse grip before using her forearm to block the blow. After almost cutting her opponent's arm with her other sword, she leapt back as Naruto swung an enraged overhead blow in retaliation. They battled for supremacy, and in a matter of seconds, their swords were locked together once more, shooting sparks skyward. Miyuki suddenly changed her strategy. Naruto staggered at the sudden shift as her blades darted to the side, deflecting his swords. Now that his side was exposed, Miyuki wasted no time in seizing the opportunity. With deadly intent, she swung at her opponent, but before it could bite into his flesh, her opponent suddenly twisted around in mid. Stumble. Miyuki complained, "TCH. Better than I thought," as she retreated from Naruto's counter swing. "You ain't seen nothing yet." "Really? Then let's take it up a notch. You're on." They were gone forever as they moved their conflict into the fast lane. He's genuinely maintaining pace with her," Shiro exclaimed, appearing stunned. "No one below Jonin has ever been able to keep up with her before." Nami grinned. "I guess his reputation wasn't all talk." As he searched for the two fighters, Kiba exclaimed, "How the hell are they moving so fast?" They were fighting all over the arena, and only a few could keep up with their speed. They only sometimes materialized for short periods of time, fighting with sparks flying, before vanishing once more. In our world, speed can mean the difference between life and death, and this especially applies to shinobi that use kenjutsu. Most styles require inhuman speed and reaction times, something I know Naruto has worked on extensively, and by the looks of it, so has that girl. When you combine all that together, it leads to this type of duel where the outcome can be decided in less than a second, Kakashi said with a grin. Usually, this level of swordsmanship is only seen among the samurai. For these two to reach this level is nothing short of extraordinary. High praise from an elite Jonin, but it went unnoticed by Miyuki, Naruto, or the larger audience. For now, taking each other down was all that mattered. All of a sudden, Miyuki was back. Using her weapons as supports, she slammed her foot into her opponent's chin, both of her swords jammed into the ground. The Yuki. Nin vanished below and resurfaced above Naruto, her swords glowing a brilliant green. Blue, sending him skywards, his body completely paralyzed with shock and pain. "Take this!" exclaimed the kunoichi. Shirayuki. Ryu. Hotukyokuko, White Snow Style, Northern Lights. Shit. Whack. Naruto's crossed blades were struck by a massive chakra wave that resembled a real aurora borealis, sending him hurtling toward the earth. He made a crater and started coughing up blood as soon as he struck the ground hard. His back in particular hurt the most, and he was positive he broke a rib or two from his collision with the earth. However, he was still alive. Then his gut told him to run. Before being compelled to roll to the side, all Naruto saw was the glint of steel as Miyuki drove her blades into the spot where he had been lying. He leapt back onto his feet and unleashed a barrage of wide, powerful swings with Tenyu, but his opponent easily parried his stab. The blonde cursed, realizing he had no chance in an actual close quarters kenjutsu fight. He gave a shove that knocked Miyuki back, allowing him to put some much needed distance between them. "Let's see if she enjoys my methods," he thought angrily. Nitoryu. Nana. Ju. Nippondo Ho. Two Sword Style, Phoenix of the 72 Earthly Desires. A savage tornado tore through the space, sending the Yuki Nin reeling to the side to avoid being cut to ribbons. The attack with the flying blade left gouges in the cement as it crashed into the wall behind her. Miyuki exclaimed, "You can make your blade attacks fly?" Miyuki took great pride in being one of the few swordsmen who could make their techniques last over long distances. Now, though, seeing her opponent, a man whose strength came solely from his Kekkei Genkai, did more than just make her angry. She was furious. "Disappear." Shirayuki. Ryu. Hakyoku no Mai, White Snow Style, Dance of the Arctic. Miyuki suddenly exploded forward, slicing a shallow cut over Naruto's shoulder before he could react. With a curse, he turned to face her, but it was too late. It seemed as though the Yuki Nin was skating on the stone floor as she sped past him, scoring more and more cuts all over his body. "Damn it. Nitoryu. Nana. Ju. Nippondo Ho. Two Sword Style, Phoenix of the 72 Earthly Desires." Miyuki laughed mockingly as she skated around the edge of the room, narrowly avoiding the attack. The Yuki Nin mocked, "Looks like you really are nothing without your Kekkei Genkai. And that's it. It's time to step it up even further." Naruto raised his swords so they were parallel to the ground and flipped Tenyu into a reverse grip. His eyes gleamed with malice. Nitoryu. Nigiri, 2 sword style, double slash. Naruto also disappeared with a focused burst of speed. Even Miyuki, who was accustomed to moving quickly, was completely unable to find her opponent because of how quickly he moved. She surprised herself by slowing down. Big mistake. She was suddenly faced with the angel. He had suddenly appeared in a deep crouch, his 2 blades already swinging upward. Josho 2, Rising Tower. Miyuki quickly turned her head back to dodge a sudden burst of piercing chakra. She made to split the blonde, growling, but then realized his swords were swinging down toward her from above. Raka 2, Falling Tower. The kunoichi cried out, shit, as a chakra flash struck the earth just inches from her neck. Miyuki instantly leapt away, desperate to get some distance between them, as a blinding light suddenly filled her vision. What is this? Hurameki, flash. Twin waves of chakra sliced like a laser into Miyuki's side, only her reflexes and pure instincts saving her life. The blonde was already attacking, sending both of his blades crashing into hers with the force of a train, as the kunoichi growled and swung both of hers upwards at Naruto, who was still suspended in midair. Hakai Tsuchi, battering ram. The kunoichi was instantly pushed back by the sheer strength of the blades, tripping her as she attempted to gather her thoughts and avoid being overpowered by the angel's strike. In fact, he's pushing me back. That isn't feasible. His Kekkei Genkei is supposed to be his only source of strength. What on earth is happening? Miyuki jerked her blades to the side, thinking. Luckily, Naruto was able to stop his combo and jump away in time to avoid the Yuki. Nin's subsequent attack due to the abrupt shift. The only warning Naruto received was a slight distortion in the air before Miyuki materialized in front of him, her swords already swinging down in an overhead strike. Never one to back down, Naruto struck back right away, sending a stunning shower of sparks flying as his celestial blades crashed into Miyuki's swords. The crowd watched in disbelief as the two quickly started exchanging blows once more. How much longer are they going to keep this up? It's been nearly 5 minutes now. Look at them go. You can see them? How? They're moving so fast. Shiro remarked, amused at the remarks made by others in the room. He's definitely the real deal, not that he could blame them. The fight down below was really well done. The swordplay was unmatched by anything they had ever witnessed, leaving even the Daidenshi in awe. Miyuki's probably pissed. 5 minutes is a new record for her, Nami remarked. So, definitely pissed then. Oh yeah. Definitely. Look at her face. Miyuki's face was red with frustration and exhaustion. She could not accept that without his Kekkei Genkei, her opponent could genuinely be this powerful. It was just not feasible. She swung her twin blades against Naruto's again, roaring, "Why won't you just die already? You're supposed to be weak without your Kekkei Genkei. Helpless. How is this possible?" Naruto's gaze grew strained. The angel's heavenly white wings were suddenly revealed to everyone as a holy celestial chakra swirled around his back and said, "Because I have a reason to fight beyond myself." As the audience watched Kami's divine champion push his opponent back, gasps could be heard throughout the room. And I've been a fucking fool. After all that talk about shinobi using every tool at their disposal, I go into this fight using only my kenjutsu. No more. With a flap of his wings, he struck Miyuki from both sides, leaving her speechless. The girl was sent hurtling into a nearby wall by Naruto's howling blast of wind, futon. Daitopa, wind release, great breakthrough. After he spun around and delivered a vicious combination of kicks, Duxieme Hachi's, second-rate mincemeat. Saiten. Hoshiakari, holy release, starlight. Miyuki just about survived. The storm of holy energy was narrowly avoided by the Yuki. Nin as she threw herself to the side at the last moment before it crashed into the wall. Despite the pain in her body, she refused to succumb to this Kekkei Genkei user. Pointing her swords at her opponent, she yelled, "Two can play at that game, Namikaze." Hyeten. Hyakai, ice release, frozen sea. A tidal wave of ice and snow covered the entire arena in an instant after there was a flash. The entire room instantly became several degrees colder, though none of the Yuki. Nin who were accustomed to such things noticed it. Miyuki's attack never reached its target, which is unfortunate for her. Naruto used his most potent defense move as soon as he saw the wave of frozen death heading toward him. Hyeten. Hyoga no Josho, ice release, rising glacier. A massive glacier materialized at Naruto's feet like a mountain rising out of the sea, effectively protecting him from Miyuki's attack but leaving the area directly behind him devoid of snow. Sadly, this was not possible for the remaining portion of the arena since the Yuki Nin's attack had covered it with several feet of thick ice and snow. Holy crap. Almost everyone thought at the same time. Two genins had converted an entire arena into the frozen tundra with just one ninjutsu exchange. Including the fucking glacier. With her swords glowing again, Miyuki roared, "That won't protect you." Shirayuki. Ryu. Hotukyokuko, White Snow Style, Northern Lights. Boulder. Sized pieces of ice crashed down toward Naruto and the one area of the arena that was clear of snow as the glacier broke apart. However, Miyuki was far from done. The fight had already revealed to her how much of a slippery bastard her opponent was. She vanished in a flash after completing her strike and reappeared above the hailstorm that was falling on her adversary. Hyeten. Haikai, Ice Release, Frozen Sea. OSH*T. Naruto murmured as he peered up at the snowstorm that was descending. Things weren't looking good with his glacier collapsing in front of him, the arena wall behind him, and mountains of snow tumbling down from above. Naturally, Miyuki quickly went through one more set of hand seals, as if to make matters worse. Hyeten. Roga Nadare no Jutsu, Ice Release, Wolf Fang Avalanche Technique. Suddenly, half of the snow that was falling turned into enormous wolves that were determined to rip him limb from limb. Fuck. Whack. No, Naruto. 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 Kun. Zabuza and Kakashi had to use all of their strength to stop their charges from jumping back into the arena. When Haku, Sasuke, and Sakura saw their best friend buried beneath several metric tons of snow, they were all shocked. Nobody could endure that, not even a champion of the gods. HMPH, I knew he was all talk, Miyuki uttered, willfully ignoring her problems during the altercation. Her gaze went to the Hayate. Call it. No way he survived. The arena trembled. The room started to fill with a low rumble. And all eyes looked up at the little ice and snow mountain. Hyeten Ogi. Mugen no Fuyu, Ice Release Secret Technique, Endless Winter. Whack. The mountain blew up. An intense wind blew in, causing snow and ice to start flying through the air. In a matter of seconds, the arena was completely obscured from view by a virtual storm, leaving only white behind. Nami cried out, shielding her face from the falling snow, "What is this?" While he searched for his other teammate down in the center of the storm, Shiro swiftly gathered the kunoichi into his arms to shield her from the intense blizzard. Everybody on Team 7 and Team Zabuza slumped farther down the balcony in relief, except Heeso, who just scowled behind his mask. There's only one person we know of that can dish out this much widespread damage with a single ninjutsu, Sakura chuckled. Thank goodness. Haku said, leaning over her and grinning brightly with relief. Miyuki was back on the ground, straining to protect herself from the unrelenting snowfall. The girl thought, this is comparable to some of the worst storms we've ever had in Yukigakure. How is he accomplishing this? The storm was so bad that Miyuki failed to see a figure approaching steadily. Her senses finally kicked in when that person was only 10 feet away. Shivering badly, but trying not to show it, she leapt back and raised her swords. She snarled. Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze. The one and only, the angel facetiously retorted. Like my technique? He asked, utterly unfazed by the freezing storm encircling them. What the fuck did you do? I used my most powerful Hyeten ninjutsu. You didn't give me much choice with that last maneuver of yours. Basically, it creates a whirlwind around me, which can then be augmented with ice and snow for extra power. The more ice and snow, the stronger it gets. Normally, I have to waste a lot of chakra to create the necessary amount of snow to make the technique effective, but since you literally dumped a few tons of ice on top of me, I barely had to use any chakra at all. Naruto laughed. This was definitely one of his masterworks. You have no one to blame but yourself for this blizzard. You supplied me all the ice and snow. I just utilized it to its fullest extent. How the fuck do you have a technique like that? Did you steal it or something? Naruto scowled. I created it, Hyuga. Lies. Believe me if you want, but it's the truth. Now, let's finish this. Miyuki called Naruto cowardly, but he ignored her and disappeared back into the storm before she could even take a step. She growled and dashed after her adversary, but the swirling snowfall quickly obscured her view of him. Namikaze, you can't hide for long. I'll find you eventually, Miyuki. Nin said, her senses acutely aware. She looked for her target for a few minutes, but she was unable to find it. Suddenly, she became alert due to a noise to her left. Her eyes, glowing yellow, were observing her through the storm. Now she could see them. And they were getting closer, a low growl piercing the blizzard's groans inexplicably. She didn't feel afraid. Show yourself, Namikaze. That isn't me, a voice from behind abruptly said in a whisper. Miyuki turned and saw her opponent smirking before he disappeared once more into the storm. And I'm certainly not the one you should be worrying about. Her gaze grew wide. Miyuki turned around in time to see a razor. Sharp mouth snarling in preparation for the kill. She threw back her head, missing the ice construct's snapping maw by the narrowest of margins, but not quickly enough to prevent the remainder of the ice wolf from colliding with her. They landed in a struggling heap on the snow-covered floor. Miyuki cried out, barely able to stop the ice wolf from snapping and biting her. Ga. Get off me. Hyeten. Hyakai, ice release, frozen sea. The ice wolf was thrown onto its back by the snowball's force, which allowed Miyuki to quickly stand back up and stab her blades into the construct's flank, breaking it instantly. Sadly, her respite was short-lived, as a snarl from the left informed her that there was another wolf nearby. She ducked, slicing her blades across its side as she narrowly avoided its swiping claws. She gasped, damn, as she watched the structure fall apart. Did Namikaze make those? As much as she hated to admit it, Naruto was smart to create these wolves. There was no way of knowing how many of them the angel had made, and their icy composition made them hard to spot in the storm. She would have to remain vigilant. To Miyuki's relief, the ferocious winds surrounding her seemed to suddenly moderate. Unfortunately, her respite was short. Lived as Naruto emerged from his storm, allowing the enraged Kunoichi to finally lay eyes on him. His other hand was spinning Mugetsu while Tenyu rested on his shoulder. Overall, he seemed content with their circumstances, as though she didn't represent a threat to him. She was enraged by that. It's time to prove to him how dangerous she truly could be. Shirayuki. Ryu. Hotukyokuko, White Snow Style, Northern Lights. Her twin blades released a wave of blue and green light that sliced a path across the snowy ground, but two ice wolves stopped it. They broke apart in a dazzling display of flying ice as they shot out of the receding storm and leapt straight into the path of the attack. Raising an eyebrow, Naruto asked, "Did you really think I'd expose myself without making sure I'd be safe?" He gave a headshake. "Never mind. You obviously did. And before you think of trying to attack me again, you should know I have a few dozen more ice wolves in the storm. You're surrounded. Yield." Miyuki yelled, "Yield? You dare? I'll kill you." Chakra yelled as she raised her blades to slay the enraged blonde in front of her, but before she could do so, a growl came from her left. It was guttural, deep, and conveyed a desire to kill. To cause harm. The Yuki. Nin heard another growl just as she turned to face the impending threat. To her right was this one. Then there was still another. Next one, and yet another. Then she caught sight of it. Bright yellow eyes encircling her. "Like I said, you're surrounded. Surrender or I'll sick my wolves on you." Miyuki realized she was in trouble. A huge pack of ice wolves stood in front of her, her back to the wall. She had run out of options, was fatigued, and had low chakra. All of that was less important than the fact that her opponent had the audacity to order her to give up. Not a damn possibility. Shirayuki. Ryu Ogi, White Snow Style Secret Technique. The eyes of Nami and Shiro grew wide. Is she? I think she is. Well, shit. Hyogaki, Ice Age. After Miyuki brought her blades down, everything remained motionless for what seemed like an eternity. Next, though. Haha. Everything just blew up, including the wolves, the wall, the ground, and the storm itself. The room appeared as though a trench had been carved by the hand of God. And everything that the invisible blade sliced through actually froze solid. The floor and wall of concrete were so flash frozen that they had turned white. Regarding Naruto, well. For a mere 5 seconds, he was split in two and frozen solid. He then vanished into smoke. Miyuki's gaze expanded. Bushin. A voice from behind her said, "Nice try, but you lose." She was taken by darkness. Winner of the 5th match is Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze. Following the proctor's announcement, the howling blizzard subsided and silence filled the arena, revealing Naruto to be moving away from his unconscious opponent. He was frowning a lot, probably still irritated by Miyuki's previous taunts. Luckily, though, as he approached his friends, the smiles on their faces were enough to take his mind off of his irritations. "Hey, guys. Excellent work, Naruto," Kakashi congratulated the angel, placing his hand on his shoulder. Sakura and Haku hugged him, and Sasuke, Zabuza, and Kira also congratulated him on winning. The other Konoha genins, who had all strolled over to say hello, expressed their congratulations as well. That was a pretty difficult fight. Naruto muttered, "As much as I hate to admit it, she was pretty good," as he watched the medical personnel wheel his opponent into the infirmary. "But you won. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters." "Yeah, I guess. Is what she said still bothering you?" Naruto scowled. "A little bit," he said. "I spent months working myself to the bone to get where I am now, and to have some random shinobi say that it was because of my bloodline just really grates me. Especially since in the end, I did use it." With a beaming, appraising expression, Kakashi remarked, "That just means you fought like a true shinobi. Remember what the Hokage said? These exams are a replacement for war, and in war, you use anything and everything to win. That is what you did, and you should be proud of yourself for it." "Hi, thanks, Kakashi. Sensei. Anytime, Naruto." Meanwhile, Hayate was surveying the altered battleground from back down in the arena. What had been a plain concrete room had turned into a frozen tundra with the crumbling remnants of a glacier off to one side. With a frown, the proctor turned to face the Hokage. "Sir? Should we melt it?" Sarutobi gave a headshake. A shinobi needs to be able to fight and adapt in any situation, no matter how abrupt or unexpected it may be. "Carry on as is." "Hi." Without any delay, the board started going through the names again, providing the candidates with a brief window of time to try and come up with fresh plans for the altered situation. Unbeknownst to others, the Yuki Nin had always intended to create a battlefield similar to this one, which is why they had any actual experience with it. A shinobi should never be without a plan. "We are going to start the next match," declared Hayate. "Would Sabaku no Tamari and Konami Higiri please report to the center of the arena?" Tamari smiled confidently as she descended onto the snow with a slightly exaggerated flick of her battle fan. However, her opponent was far more polished. Instead of landing on the snow, he simply leapt onto it and prepared himself by holding a ninjutsu in a reverse grip. Both gave a nod. "Combatants ready?" "Very well. Hajime." A dozen shuriken were flying toward Tamari's face before she could even blink, and Konami was trying to surprise her by moving much more slowly than usual because of the knee. High snow. Barely had he traveled half the distance when his opponent retaliated with every weapon in his arsenal. Shit. With a narrow escape from the flying projectiles, he dove to the side and found himself squarely facing his opponent, who was standing atop the snow as though it were solid ground. Even as the girl's weapon bore directly toward his face, his eyes grew wide. "How are you?" Wham. Ko right away. Winner Sabaku no Tamari. It had only been 15 seconds into the fight. Tamari snorted, pathetic, and jumped back onto the balcony. Troublesome, so the Suna Nin have some kind of special technique that lets them walk on top of the snow. Makes sense given where they're from, but that means it's not just the Yuki Nin that have the advantage now with this kind of battleground, Shikamaru murmured, and then turned to stare at. "Damn it, Naruto, this is all your fault." "Oi. I didn't make the snow. Hyuga did. Which you spread all across the arena with that blizzard. So again, your fault." "Oh, come on." Naruto pouted as the others laughed, all the while keeping a watch on the board that was scrolling through the names of the upcoming match. Tenten, however, turned to face the blonde angel and frowned as this was going on. "Hey, Naruto?" He raised his head. You're a futon user, right?" "Yeah, why? Do you think you could help me train against futon ninjutsu? With the exception of that technique you made for me, I don't have anything that can go up against her attacks." Naruto scowled. Tenten was accurate. Her whole fighting technique depended on using weapons close to hand or as projectiles. She would be defenseless against the wind. More significantly, Suna was recognized for possessing more shinobi with wind affinities than any other nation, meaning that Tamari wasn't the only threat. Tenten would require all the help she could get to survive if Konoha and Suna truly went to war. That concludes that, he thought, then turned to face the brunette. Sure, Tenten. Do you know what your elemental affinity is? Yeah, it's wind actually. Guy. Sensei tested me a few months ago. Huh, in that case, you should also consider asking Asuma Sensei for some help too. The way he uses wind is more suited for you as opposed to my style. What do you mean? My techniques are mostly focused on knocking my enemies back, which is somewhat similar to Tamari's style, so that's good for you on learning how to combat it. But Asuma Sensei uses futon to augment the cutting and piercing power of his weapons, and that's more your style. Tenten squealed, oh, definitely. Thanks, Naruto. I'll ask him after the prelims are over. The 7th match will now commence. Would Reiko Daidenshi and Shunsui Hiroshima please report down to the center of the arena? The group went silent as soon as that clan name was mentioned. Fear set in. They were aware that a total massacre was going to take place. Naruto muttered, this isn't going to end well. Sasuke asked, glancing at the kunoichi as they silently descended the stairs. Ya think? She wore a black hooded cloak, like all the Daidenshi, but it was parted to reveal her black armored bodysuit and voluptuous hourglass figure. Even though she didn't have any visible weapons on her person, she might have something secret up her sleeve. Everyone could sense her power, even though they didn't know that the bronze talisman she was wearing as a belt buckle might be a weapon of some sort. Everyone in the room felt on edge as a result of it. With Zabuza, of course. He grunted, glaringly ignoring the heavy drops of sweat everyone was sporting, including Reiko, who couldn't help but thank the dark god that no one could see her blush. Black leather. I bet she's into bondage. That or she's a sadomasochist, he said, speculating. Sasuke asked, noticing the frown etched on his teammate's face, you okay, Naruto? The angel looked at Shunsui with a look that suggested he was trying to recall something, but he did not respond. I am aware that name is familiar to me. Shunsui seemed to be a rather ordinary-looking man. He was probably one of the older genin here, maybe 15 or 16 based on his appearance and stature. He had a 5 o'clock shadow and somewhat long black hair that was mostly pulled back into a ponytail. His onyx-colored eyes and traditional shinobi garb gave the impression that he was an ordinary shinobi. But there was no denying that this man possessed enormous chakra reserves. There was no denying his strength. Is he possibly in the bingo book? Naruto ruminated as he pulled out the book and turned the pages. At last, he found himself on the shinobi's profile. Aha! Found him. Haku asked, peering over his shoulder as the others leaned in to hear him out. Who is he? Shunsui Hiroshima, better known as Shunsui no Ryu, Shunsui the Dragon. He's a genin from Kirigakure. It says here he's extremely proficient in all known dragon-based techniques with the exception of bloodline-related techniques. That explains the nickname. Anyways, as an ninjutsu specialist, Shunsui is already considered a B rank threat, primarily due to playing a part in the wiping out of the Kagaya clan during the Kiri bloodline genocide. He also has a bounty of nearly 10 million ryo. Naruto was referring to. I don't know why he's a genin if he participated in the bloodline genocide, especially since it was nearly 10 years ago, but he's definitely powerful. With fresh eyes, the group cast a wary glance at Shunsui, fearing his abilities. But Team 7, Haku, Zabuza, and Shikamaru all continued to stare at Naruto. Kakashi muttered, and against the Daidenshi? I don't think he stands a chance. As Hayate gave the all clear to begin the match, the group paled at that horrifying thought. The Kiri. Nin instantly leapt away from his opponent, his hands already vanishing through a series of seals. Ninpo. Ryu no Kuchi, Ninja Art, Dragon's Maw. Abruptly, Reiko's vision became blurry and the entire arena changed. Razor. Sharp teeth closed in from above, and she could feel the heat of an all-consuming fire building up behind her as she stood in what appeared to be a dragon's mouth. Still, Shunsui was not finished. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grey Dragon Fire Technique. A volley of enormous fireballs shaped like dragons materialized and rushed toward their objective. Their flames were so intense that a river of melted snow was left in their wake, and many of the shinobi on the balcony were forced to retreat from the railing. In a matter of seconds, the fire touched down and burst forth with seismic intensity, engulfing the Daidenshi that was trapped in the illusion in a terrifying inferno. Still, Shunsui was far from finished. Against a Daidenshi, he was not about to take any chances. Suiden. Suiryuden, Water Release, Water Dragon Projectile. Raiden. Raryu no Tatsumaki, Lightning Release, Lightning Dragon Tornado. After Shunsui's previous attack, the melted water swelled and collected to form a fearsome dragon. Shunsui's form was encircled by fierce winds that crackled with electricity as the beast roared and shook the chamber with its cry. The winds finally erupted upwards and combined with the Kiri. Nin's water dragon to form a single, enormous, lightning charged dragon whose only objective was to obliterate its target. Whack! The whole arena trembled. Cries could be heard as many of the genin sought shelter from Shunsui's attack, causing buffeting winds that swirled around the arena. Then there was silence. Was it him? Was he victorious? The smoke started to clear gradually. Awaiting with bated breath, the crowd wanted to know what had become of the enigmatic female Daidenshi. She would be down after using an S rank combination ninjutsu and a B rank fire ninjutsu, surely? She could not possibly be standing still. Is that it? I wish they had known. There was Reiko Daidenshi, totally unharmed, walking calmly out of the wreckage. Her cloak had not even been scuffed by the ninjutsu wave. Her ruby red lips, which showed that the onslaught had forced her cloak back a few inches, were actually the only indication that Shunsui's attacks had even made a connection. She said, "What a shame. I had expected better from the infamous Shunsui no Ryu." Her voice was so smooth that it swept over everyone in the room and captivated them. All eyes were focused on this enigmatic woman. Her voice beckoned them in. Many wished those full lips were pressed against theirs more than anything. "I'll give you one more chance, honey. You have 1 minute to hit me with everything you've got." Shunsui lost all sense of shock and horror when he realized he was being made fun of. The Kiri. Nin crossed his fingers and thought, "Oh, that bitch is going down." Cage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique. 4 clones materialized out of nowhere, forming a circle around Reiko. Now it was time to prove to the world why he was dubbed the Dragon. Kaden. Karyu Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Projectile Technique. Doden. Doryu Jisuberi, Earth Release, Earth Dragon Landslide. Futon. Shoryu Mokogeki, Wind Release, Rising Dragon Storm. Raiden. Raryu no Tatsumaki, Lightning Release, Lightning Dragon Tornado. The 5 elements, earth, fire, wind, water, and lightning, were let loose in the shape of a dragon. Since the Kiri Nin was only elementally affinized to fire and water, it had taken him years to master all 5 techniques, but the effort had paid off. The Mizukage had acknowledged him for his skill with the dragons, and he was regarded as one of the best shinobi of his time. And now he would demolish the woman in front of him with every ounce of his heart. One power. Shunsui and his clones executed a single seal in unison, saying, "Take this." Okoku no Goryu, Realm of the 5 Dragons. The dragons advanced at a rapid pace. With a roar of pure rage, they intended to completely destroy their target. The Daidenshi's life was forfeit and there was no way out. The rush of elements never allowed him to see Reiko's sly smile. "Oh no. What's wrong, Naru?" "Time's up," muttered the Daidenshi. Haite, negation. The 5 dragons that were charging burst into flames, dousing the surrounding area in their element while sparing their target of any damage. The greatest attack of Shunsui the dragon, strong enough to defeat Jonin and even injure Cages, had crumbled before the Daidenshi, as not a single chakra particle touched the mysterious woman. She didn't even budge. How? He mumbled. She started to move in his direction, but there was no response. There was sensuality in every step. Predatory. A tiny bug in the face of a powerful, ravenous lion. Shunsui's every instinct cried out for him to flee, hide, and escape, but he was unable to do so. Because all of a sudden, there was a tremendous amount of deadly intent that no one had ever seen coming into the room. The majority of the genin in the room fell to the ground, and the 4 that were still conscious were gasping for air. The pressure was even on the Jonin. The only ones remaining somewhat composed were Team 7, Kakashi, Zabuza, and the Sandame Hokage. Even they had been shaken by a Daidenshi's Ki previously. Before their eyes flashed visions of death and destruction, pure horror. This was a Daidenshi's power. After what seemed like a lifetime, Reiko finally relaxed the ki. She looked down at her opponent, who sat trembling in front of her, oblivious to the sighs of relief echoing through the room, but she paid no attention to them. Grinning, she dropped to her knees and pressed her lips to her terrified opponent's ear. She placed her left hand gently, almost lovingly, against Shunsui's forehead and said, "You did good, honey. But your time is up." Hokkaidan. Ain no Akumu, Destruction Release, Eternal Nightmare. He let out a scream. How he screamed, oh! Cries of pure agony, of horror, of torment. Nobody was able to take their eyes off the scene in front of them. Shunsui screamed, convulsed, and spasmed as they watched. They watched as blood started to come out of his mouth, nose, and eyes. They saw the legendary Civil War veteran Shunsui the Dragon give way to an illusion so terrible that he clawed out his eyes, obviously thinking that blindness was better than whatever atrocities he was seeing. Even Hayate, who didn't want another genin killed on his record, and the Hokage, who by this point had come to the realization that it was too late to save the Kiri. Nin stood by and did nothing. Everyone was enthralled. In terror. Abruptly, everything came to an end. The screams abruptly stopped, as if someone had just turned off the television or radio. There was silence. The result was obvious. Shish, shish. Shunsui I is unable to continue. TT the winner is Reiko Daidenshi. Reiko remained silent in the face of the news. Rather, she reached down to Shunsui's lips and ran a thin fingernail over it, leaving a red stain behind. Her tongue ran up and down her finger, lapping up the red liquid with vocal pleasure, and all eyes were fixed on her as she slowly and sensually brought the blood covered appendage to her mouth and started to lick it. Every shinobi felt a chill run down their spines at those moans and the heaving of her chest, but they couldn't tell if it was from fear or arousal. With a whirl of dark celestial chakra, Reiko then teleported back up to the balcony next to her two teammates, who, in spite of everything that had just transpired, appeared to be really bored. WH. Wah. What is she? Haku muttered, her terrified expression reflecting on everyone else's. With obvious annoyance, Sasuke ran a hand through his hair and exclaimed, "We're supposed to fight that?" Shunsui used an S. Ranked combination ninjutsu and she's not even scratched. He had been shaken by this demonstration of the Daidenshi's seemingly unstoppable power. Even Itachi couldn't top that, in his opinion. He turned to face his teammate. "Naruto, you're the best at figuring out how techniques work. Were you able to get anything?" I'm honestly not sure. If I had to guess, I'd say she's somehow negating all chakra from touching her. But I don't have the faintest idea as to how she's doing that. Wishbone. Sakura muttered. Huh? The pinkhead declared, she has the talisman of chakra. Naruto turned pale when he heard that. Hey. Are you sure? I can sense it. Fuick. Kiba asked, what are you guys talking about? The angel looked over at their companions. The talisman of chakra is one of the 6 elemental talismans and arguably the most powerful. With it, the user has absolute control over their chakra. So? Kira asked, not understanding the significance. Anyone can have good chakra control with enough training. How is having above average control a bad thing for us? You saw that fight, right? We're talking about chakra control beyond perfect here. With the talisman, she can probably use A. Ranked techniques with the same amount of chakra and E. Ranked technique would normally take. She should also be able to learn new chakra-based techniques in record time, cast multiple ninjutsu and genjutsu simultaneously, and apparently, negate all external foreign chakra from touching her within a certain radius. That includes Kekkei Genkei and celestial chakra attacks. When they realized how powerful their enemy truly was, it sent shivers down everyone's spine. That means she's untouchable. Now do you understand how completely and utterly fucked we are? After saying that, all the shinobi in attendance stared at Reiko with visible fear, and there was silence. To believe that there was a shinobi among them capable of neutralizing each and every one of their genjutsu, taijutsu, and even some of their chakra. Enhanced forms. It resembled an ant trying to climb a mountain. When the Daidenshi noticed that everyone was staring at her, a smile appeared on her lips. She took off her hood gradually, and all at once the fear gave way to amazement, envy, and desire at what was exposed. She was breathtakingly beautiful, the pinnacle of beauty. Her heart-shaped face was elegantly framed by her lush black hair that cascaded over her shoulders. Her eyes were a brilliant ruby color, capable of breaking even the toughest hearts, but her soft smile made them melt. After the preliminary round was over, a lot of the shinobi would be purchasing baggy pants due to her ample bust and the tight leather bodysuit. Behind his mask, Zabuza grinned and said, "Damn, she's hot." As per his nature, the swordsman showed no emotion in response to the horrific death of Shunsui or the seemingly unstoppable strength of the female Daidenshi. "Come here, girl, and give me a little spin." With a choked laugh, Reiko kissed the demonized Zabuza and turned back to her teammates in the altercation between Shiro and Konkuro, the final member of the Suna team, that had just broken out. Glancing around the group, Sasuke demanded, "How are we supposed to beat that? If she can negate all foreign chakra, then none of our ninjutsu or genjutsu will touch her. Hell, even some of our taijutsu requires chakra to pull off." Naruto muttered, and that's not even considering her own combat prowess. They're not so stupid as to rely on a single power like the talisman of chakra. We already know she can kill with a single genjutsu. I'd bet my house that her skills in taijutsu and bukajutsu are equally strong. And for all we know, she's the weakest of the three. Or the strongest. We don't know anything about their abilities. Well, Seigen has a sword, so he's probably pretty skilled in kenjutsu. Not just kenjutsu. Taijutsu too. No swordsman worth their salt would slack on training their hand. 2. Hand skills in case they lose their sword. Think you can take him? Not sure, a frowning Naruto uttered. I can't sense his chakra or any of his teammates really. I've got no idea if we compare or not. He's taller and more muscular, so I'm sure he's physically stronger than me, but I might be faster than him. Again running his hand through his hair, Sasuke sighed, yeah, my Sharingan can't see their chakra either. Damn. How are we supposed to fight them then? For all we know, they could be on par with Orochimaru. Sakura remained silent the entire time her teammates were talking. It appeared that neither Sasuke nor Naruto understood the importance of Reiko owning the talisman of chakra. Even though the Daidenshi didn't have an affinity for the elements at first, she could use all of the other talismans with it. This implied that Sakura would be a prime target, likely even more so than Naruto, since she was the bearer of 3 of the elemental talismans. And the way things were going at the moment, she had no chance. Sakura had observed their disparity in strength. More importantly, Reiko had perfected a method that gave her an apparent unbeatable edge over her ninjutsu specialization. How in the world was she meant to combat that? Sakura was aware of her strength. Not by a long shot. That was demonstrated by Team 7's fight with the Snake Sannin and by her own performance. She could easily take on a few of the weaker Jonin in Konoha, as well as any Chunin. However, it was insufficient to defeat the monsters she would have to face. Not in opposition to Reiko Daidenshi. Sakura needed an advantage if she was to support her allies in the upcoming battles. She needed to discover a way to overcome the Daidenshi's impenetrable defense. However, it would have to be something novel. Something special that she alone was capable of. Something that Reiko Daidenshi was unable to refute. Sakura reluctantly turned her green eyes back to the Daidenshi team, only to have Reiko's own ruby eyes locked on hers. With a menacing smile, the stocky raven head gave a gentle tap to her deltoid, conveying a strong message. Your talismans will be mine. With a furrowed brow, the pinkette flipped the Daidenshi the bird and pointedly returned her focus to the match below. She had apparently missed a few matches, both of which resulted in draws, but she was lucky to turn around in time to witness Kira use a well-aimed split kick to take out both Akamaru and Kiba. The pair fell like a bag of bricks. Winner. Kira Mojiyu. The teenager teleported back onto the balcony after giving the room a victory sign. The 14th match will now commence. Would Haku Yuki and Nami Saihyo-san please report down into the arena? Good luck, Haku. Chan, Naruto muttered as he mustered the courage to imitate her previous movements. As the Ice Maiden leapt down onto the snow-covered field, her friends were amused by the deep flush that colored both of their faces. She was secretly enjoying the sensation of Naruto's lips brushing against her cheek. The girl shook her head, thinking, that's not the time to be thinking about that. Haku let out a slow, steady breath, and her entire personality changed, becoming icy. cold as she adopted the perspective of an experienced assassin. Her gaze fixed on the form of her opponent, examining her closely for any signs of weakness or opening in the Yuki. Nin's fighting style. The only information Haku had about Nami prior to the fight was that she was from Yukigakure, which meant that she would probably be skilled in Heian ninjutsu and that her extreme environment would give her extraordinary endurance and stamina. However, at this moment, left-handed, 12 hidden pouches on a Senbon user. Slimmer build with better calf muscle definition. In conclusion, Haku scowled, speed expert with a fighting style that might be comparable to mine. It won't be simple. If I falter even for a split second, I'm out. I'll have to take the lead. Haku had no idea that Nami was thinking precisely the same thing. Hajime. Cling, cling, cling. Whack. Blinkers would have missed it. The two kunoichi engaged in 3 rounds of fighting in the space of a few seconds, and then one of them detonated an explosive tag that did no damage at all. As Haku and Nami reappeared in entirely different areas of the arena, both with needles protruding from their arms and shoulders, dozens of Senbon had already fallen to the ground. Nami did not even bat an eye at the pain as she pulled the Senbon out, just grinning fiercely. She sealed her hand, saying, "So you use Senbon too, huh? This is going to be awesome." Haku was only spared the unexpected explosion of icicles from beneath her feet because of her years of rigorous training under the demon of the hidden mist. She launched herself skyward, vanishing into the massive ice mirror that materialized above her, and then materializing right behind her adversary, a spear of ice ready to sever the girl. Nami's gaze expanded. SHLCK. Oof. Substitute. Haku cursed as she cast the impaled piece of wood aside and looked around, but nothing was there. The Yuki. Nin were almost completely gone from the arena. How dare she attempt to read Nami's chakra? She could only sense herself, that's all. What? You ask? The young lady blinked. Why am I unable to sense Naruto? Kun, Zabuza, Sama, or anyone else? It didn't take her long to figure out the reality. Kai, release. As the illusion broke, dozens of Senbon began flying toward her in the real world. Panic and fear set in. The Senbon were too close for her to duck under this. That was too fast for her body to move. It can't end like this. I'm unable to give up. I refuse to. Her desperate thoughts caused Haku's chakra to surge just in time before the Senbons turned her into a pincushion. She sensed her lineage at work, stretching out and molding the surrounding snow and ice. Then everything exploded upward. From beneath her feet, jagged spikes protruded, deflecting nearly all of the needles except for a few that grazed her porcelain skin. Overall though, she was uninjured. With an unusual frown on her face, Nami straightened up from across the room and said, "Damn. You have some seriously ridiculous reflexes to have blocked my Senbon at that range." It had been her bloodline, after all, but Haku wasn't going to break that to her. The Ice Maiden charged instead. She whipped up an icicle and threw it at her rival. Her spear missed as predicted, but in doing so, Nami put herself squarely in Haku's line of attack, and the battle soon devolved into close quarters. Dozens of punches and kicks were exchanged in a matter of seconds, but not a single one connected. Because of how similar their fighting styles were, every single feint and misdirection was predicted and easily countered. Unless one of them made a mistake, the battle would soon become one of attrition at this rate. All of a sudden, the fight changed. The audience's thoughts appeared to have been prescient. After Nami overextended a punch, Haku wasted no time in taking advantage of her opponent's error. She struck so forcefully that the girl was momentarily stunned, slamming an open palm against her opponent's jaw. An uppercut to the stomach, an elbow to the shoulders, and an overhead blow to the head that sent Nami crashing face. First into the snow came right after this. Haku attempted to end the fight by stomping hard on her opponent's head once she was down, but the Yuki. Nin was able to endure her pain because of the bitter cold of the snow. Nami rolled away mere nanoseconds before her foot could make contact. With her eyes burning with rage from the beating she had received, the Yuki. Nin made sure her opponent knew it when she launched her counterattack. Wham! Huh! Haku threw himself over. Her opponent had given her a surprise uppercut that left her stunned and in pain. She was in the air the next thing she knew. After removing the Ice Maiden's feet from under her, Nami delivered a viciously powerful spinning side kick. Coughing up blood, Haku crashed into the concrete walls, but she quickly recovered and avoided the follow up punch from the Yuki. Nin. She launched herself into a series of counterpunches, but each one was parried, and the two girls leapt apart, hurling senbon. Both kunoichi had moved from where they had been before the needles had flown more than a few feet. Their bodies were being moved by chakra, which only a few people could keep up with. Every few seconds, they collided, sending shockwaves through the snow, but neither delivered a particularly strong blow. They fought repeatedly until, eventually, after a few exchanges, one of them made a mistake. Once again, Nami had given her punch too much. Haku made no hesitation. When Nami's knife hand suddenly swung toward the Yuki. Nin's exposed back, Haku's attack was deflected. That had been a ruse. Haku saw the snow-covered floor as if someone had suddenly punched her in the cheek. After falling, she spun around and scored a backhand with her other hand passing through seals. Sensatsu Suisho, 1,000 flying water needles of death. In a startling instance of the proverb, what goes around, comes around, only 10 times worse, Nami was suddenly confronted with 1,000 needles, all of which were now aimed directly at her. Shit. Nami shot upwards with a chakra burst, narrowly avoiding certain defeat, only to find Haku standing over her, several senbon ready to skewer her. She couldn't possibly avoid this. Erg. Several senbon hit her. Her arms and legs were pierced, causing surgical wounds to her muscles, nerves, and tendons, rendering her unable to move by the time she reached the ground. Nami knew her fight was over, even though she'd managed to defend her face and chest, but that didn't mean she couldn't bring her opponent down with her. Hayaten. Yukibana Shuriken, Ice Release, Snowflake Shuriken. Haku had very little time. Haku knew the Yuki. Nin wanted to kill her as well the instant she felt Nami's chakra building. Her lineage shot up in reaction to her thoughts, quickly creating a massive ice mirror between them. Sadly, Haku was only able to create a barrier that was an inch thick before the paper. Thin snowflake projectile struck because they were only a few meters apart. Shike. And sliced right through it, as well as her. Oof. When Nami finally hit the floor, she closed her eyes and said, "Clone. She's so good." Haku's head appeared from behind the crumbling remnants of Naruto's glacier. She had to train for several months before learning how to simultaneously perform her signature attack and make an ice clone, and even now, she was only successful roughly 2/3 of the time. It had been a risk to try that maneuver in the heat of battle, but it had paid off. This day, fortune had been on her side. She had prevailed. Winner. Haku Yuki. The balcony burst into applause, and before long, Haku was encircled by her friends, who were all shouting their congrats. Everyone hugged each other, except her guardian angel, who gave her a peck on the cheek instead. The Ice Maiden was instantly enraged by the gesture and went to reciprocate, but she stopped when she saw her father. Figure staring at her. Not a word was spoken, nor was it necessary. Haku could see everything in the man's eyes. The coziness. The arrogance. And the feelings that could only be characterized as the love and grief of a parent seeing their child develop before their very eyes. Haku could see everything that was there. And it filled her in a way that words could not express. So she did what she always did instead. With a smile, she bowed her head in gratitude. The next match will now commence. Tessai Kudo, Sakura Haruno, please join me down in the... I forfeit. Sakura and Hayate both gave a startled blink. The Kiri. Nin discovered the Pinkette's entry in the bingo book after managing to obtain a hold of one somehow. It was obvious that Tessai believed he had no chance if he was going to forfeit. Very well. Winner by verbal surrender, Sakura Haruno. Well, that was unexpected, Sakura mumbled. Sakura asked, giving her a sly look, what, were you hoping for a fight like Naruto's? The Pinkette gave a headshake. Of course not. Any opportunity to hide our true capabilities from the Daidenshi is a good thing in my book. I just wasn't expecting it. Neither was I, but hey, lucky you. And speaking of the Daidenshi. In an instant, both competitors were facing each other in the arena as the announcer said, the next match will now commence. Would Shiso Daidenshi and Matsuri Suzu please report to the arena? It was obvious that everyone was getting impatient, and who could blame them? In shinobi terms, 12 matches, some lasting several minutes, was a long time. They were desperate for this to end, but that didn't mean they weren't completely terrified of what might occur if a Daidenshi crashed into the field. Hajime. Matsuri didn't hesitate at all, even though she was fully aware of how dangerous her opponent was. With both arms raised and prepared to launch handfuls of kunai equipped with Class 5 explosive tags, she was startled to discover a hand protruding from her chest, clutching her heart. It had only been 3 seconds into the fight. As Hayate watched the Daidenshi teleport back up to his teammates, he stammered, Victor. Shiso Daidenshi. The Tokubetsu Jonin had not been able to track the black-clad shinobi's movements, not with all his senses trained on him. Kami, please save us all. Kakashi groaned deeply behind his face mask, we're going to need to train. A lot. Shiso moved quickly. Incredibly quick. He had only been able to track the Daidenshi's movements because of his Sharingan. And in the future, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura will have to battle them? A fear that was not for him started to seep into his heart. For his family, for Team 7, for his students. His family was too important to lose. Never again. Not after his sensei, Rin, and Obito were lost. It would be like losing oneself to lose them. If Kakashi ever lost any of his priceless students, he knew he would never be able to recover. But that fear won't help them fight those monsters, he thought to himself, stifling his fear at once. No, that wouldn't help them. This wasn't the time to be afraid. Although they could be stronger, his children were strong. Their true potential was still far below what they had just started to explore. At this point, Kakashi's only option was to train them to realize their potential in order to enable them to survive the impending obstacles. And he would do everything in his power to be there for them at every turn. I'll have to increase my training as well. The next match will now begin. Would Yugito Ni and Kakoa Sendo report to the arena? When Naruto heard who would be competing in the next match, his eyebrow went up. He said, leaning against the railing with open curiosity, now this ought to be interesting. The angel said to Team 7, Haku, Kira, and Zabuza, we've seen number 1's powers, but what can number 2 do? And they too started to pay closer attention to the fighters below. Combatants ready? Hajime. Whack. Yugito closed the distance between herself and her opponent and buried her fist in Kakoa's face before anyone could even blink. The poor Kunoichi flew backwards and slammed into the concrete walls hard enough to leave a crater, so strong was the impact that made everyone in the audience wince. The fight was practically over before it started when a blinding bolt of electricity struck the stunned Iwa. Nin a half a second later, robbing her of consciousness. It had not even been 5 seconds into the fight. Winner. Yugito Ni. Oh my god, she's so serious, Kira murmured, her eyes wide. Like a real Kunoichi, Zabuza said with a grunt of approval. You brats spend way too much time talking and posturing instead of actually fighting. Kakashi asked with a sidelong glance at the swordsman, oh really? And which one of us decided it was a good idea to make his appearance with his back facing us while standing on top of his sword? To everyone's amusement, the demon of the hidden mist wisely remained silent. The 15th match will now begin. Would Sasuke Uchiha and Izumi Nakashima please report to the arena? Sasuke, it appears that you are facing off against Yugito. San's teammate, Naruto grinned and gave his comrade a pat on the back. Give us a good show. Obviously, the Uchiha replied, confidently nodding. And before you say anything, Sakura, the answer is no. The pinkhead objected, BB, but you don't even know what I was going to say. Does it involve sex? Maybe? Are you offering? No. Mo. Sasuke rolled his eyes, vaulted over the railing, and landed softly on the snow. Dusted ground. His black eyes changed to the renowned Sharingans as they fixed on Izumi, the Uchiha's rival. She had a slim face, lighter hair, and darker skin than her teammate, but they were both about the same height. If it weren't for her eyes, Izumi would have looked like an ordinary, if attractive, Kunoichi. Her outfit was the typical one seen by Kumo. Nin's, but with a skirt and spandex shorts in place of full-length pants. Sasuke could see, even from across the room, a sharpness in those teal orbs that symbolized all of the obstacles and struggles Sasuke had faced throughout her career. She is powerful. Sasuke thought without a doubt. She would need to be on the Nibi Jinchuriki's team. Izumi's mind was racing with similar ideas. Izumi thought carefully not to look directly into the Uchiha's eyes as she observed the muscle visible in his exposed arms, his above-average chakra reserves, and of course, the Uchiha clan's dojutsu. So that's the Sharingan, she thought. A chill ran down the kunoichi's spine as he said, I'm going to have to rely on my speed and tricks to beat those eyes. But that scythe. From here, I can sense its strength. It smells like death, she scowled. This fight would not be simple. Combatants ready? Everybody nodded. Very well, Hajime. With a release of tightly controlled chakra, Izumi disappeared the instant the proctor's hand fell. She was aware that the Sharingan's analytical and predictive powers would cause the battle to move more and more in her opponent's favor the longer it lasted. Her first attack, when she reappeared at the Uchiha's side, was directed right at his eyes because she needed to finish the fight quickly or, failing that, cripple him. Even though it was a cheap shot, a shinobi's vocabulary should not include honor, and in Izumi's case, it did not. Her fist encountered an iron barrier of defense just nanoseconds before it could make contact with its target. Seeing through his opponent's scheme, Sasuke had summoned a guard in time to deflect the girl's blow. He retaliated with a scythe, but Izumi had already drawn a kunai strengthened by chakra and deflected it. She's good, Sasuke thought, using Shike's shaft to parry a stab before swinging the bottom upwards. Sparks flew as the two clashed, swinging at each other with their respective weapons, but neither side gained the upper hand. Sadly, he missed, but at least he had a few seconds to complete his thought. Shike's size is awkward in this close range, and I'm still getting used to it, even though physically I'm stronger and faster than her. She is obviously aware of that and is acting accordingly. Maybe it's time we made some changes, Jisei interjected abruptly. What are you trying to say? While the end result of death is always the same, there are many paths to reach it. And just the same, Shiki has several forms of exacting its final judgment. Channel your celestial chakra into Shiki and envision it as something smaller. The scythe will do the rest. Sasuke followed the spirit's advice out of curiosity. He was shocked, as was everyone else, when Shiki abruptly caved in on itself. The sword fixed itself across his left forearm, and the shaft vanished completely. The outcome was a gauntlet with blades that the Uchiha found far more comfortable than the weapon in its original form. He examined it for a moment before glaring viciously at his dumbfounded opponent. Nice, let's give this a try. He lunged at his adversary. It was immediately clear from their initial exchanges how the weapon's new form was changing their fight. Sasuke's attacks were faster and more powerful than before, making Izumi take cover. Shit. This cannot continue. The Kumo. Nin pondered, swatting away a haymaker. She attempted to retaliate right away with a 1-2 elbow combination, but each one was sidestepped. It's time to change things up, she said, springing back with a single-hand seal. Raiden. Shirai, lightning release, lightning strike. As Sasuke ducked, a burst of pure electricity tore through the arena, blasting a hole in the wall behind him. He was back on his feet in a moment, prepared to counter with his own ninjutsu, only to discover that Izumi had vanished from view and that half the arena was covered in smoke. A few more smoke bombs emerged from the shadowy cloud a half second later, completely engulfing the Uchiha's side of the arena in smoke and obstructing his Sharingan's power. The champion of death, exasperated, clicked his tongue. He jumped backwards and said, clever, continuing until he felt his back against the concrete wall. He ran through a set of seals and exclaimed, but not good enough. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu, fire release, Phoenix Immortal fire technique. Raiden. Shirai, lightning release, lightning strike. Before Sasuke could even unleash more than a few fireballs, a lightning bolt struck his side, causing pain to radiate throughout his body. All of his muscles, including his vocal cords, had seized up so that he was unable to even cry out. The Uchiha was hardly standing when the electricity finally stopped, at least not until his opponent emerged from the side and punched him in the face. He crumbled, rising in a cloud of smoke. Izumi's gaze expanded. Bunshin. Shiden. Moji Haizim. Death release, the dead tortured by flame. Izumi was only able to sense the extremely dangerous celestial attack coming her way because of her time spent with Yugito and her exposure to the Jinchuriki's techniques. She dove to the side, narrowly missing the black hellfire's blazing skull as it flew past, only to discover that her quick dodge had placed the kunoichi squarely in her opponent's path. Wham! Sasuke's fist lodged itself in Izumi's face, turning her vision white. But she brushed it off quickly enough to dodge the follow. Upswing and respond with a barrage of quick jabs. Unfortunately for her, Sasuke was able to counter with his own punches and kicks because all of her punches struck the flat side of her opponent's side. Turned. Gauntlet, thereby protecting its owner. When Izumi saw this, he quickly changed his strategy and lowered himself to avoid the Uchiha's most recent kick and try to throw him off balance with a front sweep. Sasuke easily jumped over her leg, deflecting her attack, but that had been the Kumo Nin's plan all along. Izumi launched a viciously powerful spinning sidekick to the stomach of her opponent while she was in the air, sending the Uchiha reeling. Sasuke skidded to a stop, jumped back up, and rubbed his gassed abdomen. His smile said, "Nice one." Izumi just gave me a mean smile and said, "Thank you," in a mocking manner. "Would you like to experience it again?" The Uchiha chuckled. "I'll pass, but why don't you give it a try?" He charged with a sudden burst of speed, and Izumi met him midway. They were now moving twice as quickly as they had previously and engaging in fierce taijutsu battles. They dodged kicks, blocked punches, and countered every combo attack as they darted across the snow covered room. Every now and then, the two fighters would reappear for a few seconds in intense fights, with each side vying for control over the other. One side would eventually come to the realization that they were losing and split off, only to vanish once more. Not everyone in attendance could keep up with their speed, but it was obvious that one wrong move would end the fight. It would arrive sooner than anticipated. Izumi had just parried a haymaker in the middle of their most recent exchange, and in return he delivered a hard axe. Kick to the shoulder, an uppercut, and a left jab to the face. The combo nearly knocked the Uchiha to the ground, but he didn't give up and swiftly caught hold of the girl's leg. Then he turned his prisoner around and gave her a violent enough blow to embed her in the solid concrete behind the wall. Regretfully for him, though, Azumi's hand flared up and unleashed a lightning bolt that narrowly missed Sasuke's side as she struck the wall. Gia! He stumbled back, glaring at his opponent and clutching the wound. Just before the blade end caught fire, he snapped his hand out and returned his weapon to its scythe form. "Fuck, that hurt?" he exclaimed. Suugii. Ho. Hiyabori, funeral art, burning to death at the stake. The Uchiha had carved a burning cross into the wall where Izumi had been standing, and she had barely had time to free herself from the concrete. The few burned hair strands that fluttered to the ground next to her indicated that she had narrowly avoided being burned. But before she could stand again, Shiki stood ready at her throat. Izumi went cold. Yield. She was unwilling to. A part of her wanted to unleash her lightning strike armor, Reijeki no Yoroi, and shock the naive, attractive shinobi, but the scythe whispered death. Smelled of it. Izumi heard it call out to her, luring her to turn her neck slightly more to receive her last prize. However, she didn't. For some reason, though, the kunoichi knew that the Uchiha's blade would pierce through her armor even if she managed to activate it. She was defeated. I surrender. Winner is Sasuke Uchiha. When Sasuke heard Hayate's announcement, he pulled Shiki away from his opponent's neck and extended his hand. Despite receiving a raised eyebrow for his display of good sportsmanship, Izumi accepted the offer and allowed the Uchiha to help her stand again. Nakashima, good fight, Sasuke remarked. You too, Uchiha, answered the Kumo Nin. Just you wait. I'll beat you next time. Konoha. Nin gave a sly smile. We'll see about that. Sasuke leapt back onto the balcony to meet his teammates, who greeted him with hugs and pats on the back. Naruto, however, had a sly smile on his face. Naruto said, "You seem like you were having a bit of trouble out there, Sasuke," with a tone that was oddly innocent. She's strong. Smart too. The angel leaned in and said, "Yeah, she is." His smile was utterly cunning. She's also really hot. Were you perhaps distracted by Izumi's beauty? What would Sakura say? Sasuke had died at Naruto's parting shot, without even trying to respond. A shiver ran down his spine as he looked fearfully at his pink-haired teammate. Luckily for him, Sakura was fixed on the fight between Lee and Choji down below at the moment. Lee was in the lead at first. He had an obvious advantage in the fight thanks to his strength, speed, and additional year of experience as well as his training under the greatest taijutsu master in Konoha's history. In addition, Choji was still processing what had happened the day before, when he almost died fighting the skeletal giant. Essentially, the plump shinobi was always outmatched, regardless of the method used. However, there's always a chance. Bunbin Baika no Jutsu, partial multi. Size technique. Suddenly, Choji's fist grew to the size of a giant's and drove a truck sized hole through Lee's guard. The blow was so powerful that it sent the taijutsu specialist flying backwards, slamming into the adjacent wall with such force that a crater was formed. Yash. Your flames of youth are truly magnificent, Choji. Kun. Lee dismissed the blow as insignificant even though it was quite severe. Then he vanished in a flash, virtually out of his opponent's line of sight, then resurfaced on Choji's left, launching a formidable assault against the plump shinobi's raised guard. The kicks struck Choji's larger hand, fortunately causing less damage due to its larger size and mass. Choji roared back, stretching out his other arm in response. Horrrahh. Whack. Gyu. Lee slipped past his guard and kicked up hard, straight into Choji's jaw, sending him flying. The Akamichi was stunned and defenseless against the axe kick that knocked him back to earth. Luckily for the plump shinobi, the snow cushioned the blow, and Choji was soon back on his feet, defending against more punches and kicks. Naruto watched Choji attempt to hit his opponent with a haymaker, missing, and said, All that extra mass is seriously limiting Choji's movements, but at the same time, it also serves as a decent defense, even against Lee's superior skill and speed. Still though, as much as I hate to say it, I don't think Choji can win this fight. A sluggish voice spoke to his left, that's assuming Choji doesn't do something drastic and stupid. Naruto gave a blink. What do you mean, Shikamaru? The Akamichi clan have a special medicine called the Sanshoku no Ganyaku, 3-colored pills. Each of the pills converts body fat into chakra to varying degrees, with the green pill having the smallest effect and the red pill having the greatest. Naturally, this process does have some pretty nasty side effects, but Choji should be okay so long as he doesn't do something as troublesome and stupid as taking the red pill. If he does. If the medicine is so dangerous, why would Choji take it? This is just a preliminary match and he's fighting a fellow Konoha shinobi. With a sigh, Shikamaru gave his sensei a fierce look. Probably because someone promised him a whole week of all you can eat barbecue. Asuma did not even try to hide his smile. The lethargic genius sighed once more and leaned heavily against the balcony railing, clicking his tongue in frustration. Fortunately, Asuma Sensei took the yellow and red pills from Choji before the match, so he only has the green pill. It still has some unpleasant side effects that'll probably require a visit to the hospital, but at least it won't be as bad as taking the other pills. Then again, that is assuming he decides to use it or not. Snap. That dumbass. Baika no Jutsu, multi. Size technique. All of a sudden, Choji grew to enormous proportions and blasted a fist toward his presumably dumbfounded opponent. Hora. Wham. Lee took the full force of a giant's punch, and everyone in the audience winced, including the Daidenshi and the Hokage. Lee was directly in the middle of a crater that was more than 10 feet wide due to the sheer force of that powerful blow. Luckily, though, the snow had softened the blow, and Lee was back on his feet with the fires of youth in his eyes in less than 2 seconds. Yosh. Lee let go of his weights and was immediately at his opponent's eye level. Konoha Gufu, Leaf Hurricane. Choji's guard was hit by dozens of punches, causing the giant to stumble and take a step backward on the slick snow. When Lee saw this, he launched himself into another round of punches and kicks, but it wasn't enough. He bounced off the ceiling and walls and added numerous more punches and kicks. Choji was now using chakra to stabilize himself after accidentally catching himself the first time. This is not how I'm going to knock Choji Kun down. I require more strength. Lee, however, knew just how to solve that issue. Though chakra exploded off the taijutsu specialist's body, he wasn't finished yet. Kaiman, Gate of Opening. Kai, Release. Kumon, Gate of Healing. Simon, Gate of Life. Kai, Release. Choji saw Lee turn red and felt chakra visibly pour off him, and he knew instantly that he would lose if he didn't attack right away. The giant raised both arms above his head, clasped his hands together, and used all of his chakra and strength to bring them down. Shodan Bakugeki, Butterfly Bullet Bombing. Konoha Arashi, Leaf Windstorm. Whack. Their fists colliding produced a shockwave so powerful that it blew the snow all the way up to the walls and revealed the concrete underneath. Blown back from each other's blows, Lee and Choji, who had shrunk back to his normal size, crashed into the walls behind one another and fell to the ground. After the battle was over, only one of them got back up. Winner. Rock Lee. Yosh. Excellently done, Lee. Thank you, Guy. Sensei. Choji. Kun was truly a youthful opponent. Indeed he was, Lee. But you won and now your flames of youth burn even brighter than before. Guy. Sensei. Lee. Guy. Sensei. Lee. Everyone look away. The alert arrived right on schedule. The battle. Scarred arena inside the Forest of Death was gone, and in its place was a scene straight out of a horror film. Two grown men cuddling on a beach with the sun setting and waves crashing around them while both of them were dressed in spandex bodysuits. From the depths of hell itself, people outside of Konoha have heard of and feared the sunset of youth. The Dark God had expectations too. Sakura demanded, Kakashi. Sensei, what the hell was that? As she watched Lee and Choji, along with their teachers, being taken to the infirmary. Lee's chakra levels suddenly just spiked and he became faster and stronger than before. That would be due to the Hachiman, 8 inner gates. Hachiman, 8 inner gates. Never heard of it. I'd be surprised if you did. The 8 gates refer to specific tenketsu along a person's chakra pathway system which limits the overall flow of chakra within a person's body. Without those gates, our bodies would burn out much faster and there would be a high risk of permanent damage and even death. However, there are a small number of shinobi who are capable of forcibly opening those gates, and in doing so, can temporarily gain great powers. So, it's basically nintaijutsu? Not quite. Nintaijutsu involves using active ninjutsu to augment taijutsu moves, like your Kyojin no Chikara, Titan's Might. The Hachiman, 8 inner gates, is different in that it essentially allows a shinobi to use all their power at once, saturating the body's muscles, bones, everything with chakra, though at great cost. Sakura trailed off, saying, and since the chakra is just affecting the body from the inside. Her eyebrows furrowed as she started whispering quietly, although nobody was aware of what she was saying. Nevertheless, everyone's attention was soon captured when the second 2. last match was announced. The 20th match will now commence. Would Neji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga report down here with me? The news that clan members would be facing off sent whispers through the chambers. Though it was rare, it was always possible that something like that could occur. The two cousins, with all eyes on them, leapt down onto the concrete floor, one exuding an almost haughty confidence and the other a reluctant aura. Hajime. The two stared at each other, silent and motionless, refusing to move or take a stand. Nevertheless, Neji eventually broke the quiet. I suggest you forfeit, Hinata. Sama. You know you cannot win. The cold tone in which her own cousin spoke to her made the shy girl cringe. It is a fact, Hinata. Sama. You are too kind, too innocent, and you avoid conflict whenever possible. Simply put, you are not a good shinobi. I'm sure you entered the exams in an effort to change yourself, but such a thing is not possible. Destiny is fixed. Unchangeable. From the moment of our births, our fates were decided. That's not true, stumbled Hinata. If I just try. No. No matter what you do, Hinata. Sama, no matter how hard you try, nothing will change. You are weak and you will always remain so. No strength, no drive, no confidence in yourself. You're nothing but a spoiled child from the main house with no skills worth speaking of. I do not understand how someone like yourself was born to the main house when you should be a branch member like me, but that is fate. Neji grumbled bitterly. Regardless, in light of us being family, I offer you this one chance to withdraw. If you do not, I will not be held responsible for what happened. The harshness, the coldness, the way he spoke to her, and the real deal. Hinata was no idiot. She was aware of her weakness. She lacked the immense fortitude and resolve that all of her peers possessed. She consented to take the tests for that reason. Hinata had thought she would find her courage by sitting for the exams. That she would be able to persevere like everyone else. Above all, though, she wanted to show herself that she was worthy and strong enough to achieve her goals. But how? How was she able to accomplish it? If she couldn't even face her own cousin, how could she change the Hyuga clan? Hinata was aware that her dreams would run into opposition. The clan elders, her own father, and decades of tradition would be her opponents. If she could not even gather the courage to assume her fighting stance, how was she supposed to face that? For a brief moment during the battle with Orochimaru, Hinata believed she could fulfill her dream. That she had the power to improve the Hyuga clan. However, after hearing Neji's words, now. Hinata. Chan. That voice. That voice, soft, warm, angelic. Anywhere, she would be able to tell. It was full of the self. Assurance she so much wanted for herself. Why are you listening to him? Only a coward would say such words. A coward who is afraid of change and facing an opponent who has the ability to do so. Only a coward would only say it's impossible to change things without even trying, Naruto murmured. We have faith in you, Hinata raised her gaze. Her friends were all grinning at her, full of confidence, faith, and belief. For her alone. We believe in you, so go. Fight. Prove him wrong. Yeah. You can do it, Hinata. Chan. Kick his ass. Go, Hinata. Hi. Na. Ta. Hi. Na. Ta. Hi. Na. Ta. They were applauding her. For her. I want to thank each and every one of you. Neji. Ni. San, thank you for your concern, but I will show you that change is possible if we want it to. What is happening? Only a moment ago, she was on the verge of tears. Were those words really going to give her the motivation to fight? Irritated that the fair angel had inadvertently ignited a flame within his cursed relative, Neji pondered. Very well. It seems like I have no choice. But remember, Hinata. Sama, you chose this for yourself. Byakugan, White Eye. The two Hyugas charged, their bloodlines still active. Their hands blurred as they collided, meeting in the center. It was amazing to witness as hundreds, if not thousands, of blows and strikes were traded, but neither side was winning. Neji's blows were unquestionably beautiful in their fluidity, despite their strength and power. On the other hand, Hinata's movements were deft and elegant, deftly blocking and deflecting her opponent's blows. The fight was evenly matched. Every blow was repelled. Every move was anticipated and deflected, and it was breathtaking to watch, akin to an exquisite dance with fireworks. Like chakra flashes coloring the air. Neji grimaced. What is this? Hinata. Sama is meant to be feeble. How is she managing to keep up? How am I not hitting a single blow yet? As the elder Hyuga blocked another palm strike, he jumped back and assumed a special stance. This will defeat you. He lunged forward. His cousin could not possibly respond to this. Hake Rokuji Sho 8 trigrams 60. 4 palms. Hake Rokuji Sho 8 trigrams 60. 4 palms. Incredible. Eyes wide, Neji thought to himself. This move should be unknown to her. However, she did. First, 2 perfectly matched strikes that were also perfectly countered. It was 4 then. 8. 16. 32. 60. 4. 50. 5. Hake Tengoku no Kyozetsu, 8 trigrams refusal of heaven. Hinata's addition was so sudden that Neji was completely unable to prepare for it. He was taken aback by the unexpected move's sheer strength and chakra, which propelled him into the harsh stone wall and across the arena. What the heck was that? Neji's gut hurt and blood was trickling down his chin, telling him that his organs had been damaged. Whatever Hinata had done, it seemed not to target the tenketsu, but had all the grace of a standard gentle fist strike. Rather, it struck with the force of a hammer and covered a larger surface area. That method is comparable, but distinct from the Hake Kusho, 8 trigrams vacuum palm. I have never witnessed a Hyuga clan member employ this method before. Where did she go? His gaze strayed to the balcony. Naturally, the creator. Neji pushed himself back up onto his feet, glaring at his opponent as he assumed his original stance. He brutally suppressed the pain in his abdomen and attacked, feinting left before striking from the right, his eyes burning with rage. He was annoyed when Hinata easily deflected his blow. The older teen was further enraged by her counterattack, which came perilously close to hitting her target. How? He growled, unleashing an increasingly vicious attack. How are you doing this? You're supposed to be weak. Your destiny, your fate was to fall before me. Hinata swerved to avoid the barrage of palm strikes, then kicked open Neji's guard. Her hand glowed and she said, because I have people who believe in me. Hake Tengoku no Kyozetsu, 8 trigrams refusal of heaven. Hakasho Kaden, 8 trigrams palm heavenly spin. Hinata was caught off guard when Neji used her clan's clandestine method because she was taken aback. Full of chakra, her palm struck the revolving shield of raw power and bounced back, knocking the heiress backwards. She was stunned by the pain and Neji's disclosed technique as she let out a cry as her back crashed into the wall and then slumped down. H. How did you? I didn't want to show off my trump card just yet, but you left me with no choice, Neji swore, his fury clearly visible. Are you upset? Angry that I can use a technique that only members of the main house are supposed to know? Hinata said, No, Neji. Nissan, and she rose slowly. I'm amazed. That was Neji's final straw. What, I think it's amazing, Neji. San, you're amazing. To figure out a secret technique all on your own. The girl cracked a shaky smile. I've always admired you, Nissan. Your strength, your courage, and I know, Neji. San, I can see how much you're hurting. He felt those words hit him like a bolt of lightning. It cut right through his rage and his anger. And long. Buried emotions were starting to surface out of nowhere. No, you're not understanding. I wish I could take it away, the pain, suffering. Stop it. Give up talking. You're confused, for so long, you have cursed destiny, yet you embrace it, and it's because you care. You're the one who is confused and suffering inside the fate of the head and branch families. Enough. Neji yelled, charging across the arena and attacking with a roar of guilt, rage, and desperation. His motions had become less fluid. His blows were no longer accurate. They were ferocious and feral, driven by a desire to do as much physical harm as they could. Even Hinata was unable to protect herself from the fierce assault. She was no longer even a match for her furious cousin, and her body still hurt from the injuries she had sustained earlier. The kunoichi was hit multiple times in a matter of seconds, breaking a rib and dislocating her shoulder in the process. She stumbled back, sobbing in agony, but received neither comfort nor understanding. Neji was too far gone by now. All that was on his mind was harming the girl in front of him, his cousin, the one who had once given him a tender smile. The one who remained his friend in spite of everything he had done to her. Neji roared, putting his fist deep in Hinata's stomach. You say you understand, but you know nothing. The girl was then lifted up to meet his gaze after he grabbed her by the hair and slammed her face down onto the ground. The Hyuga clan hasn't changed since before the time of the Warring States. In all that time, the main family has never cared for the fates of the branch family, so why? Why do you care? Because, it's my dream. Neji's gaze expanded. And he let his guard down at that very moment. Hake Tengoku no Kyozetsu, 8 trigrams refusal of heaven. Hinata struck with all of her remaining chakra. She had never felt stronger, even though she was bloodied, bruised, and barely conscious. She had put up a strong fight, winning her peers' admiration and respect. Above all, despite everything he had done to her, she had confided her dream to someone she loved and cared about. She directed all of her feelings and emotions into her last blow, which knocked Neji unconscious by sending him flying into the wall behind her. Neither combatant can continue. This match ends in a draw. Hinata. Chan. Hinata's graduating class nearly leapt off the balcony to see how their friend was doing, but their senseis held firm. Thankfully, medical personnel arrived quickly and transported Neji and Hinata to the hospital. Hayate moved forward as soon as they cleared the way, obviously keen to get through the preliminary procedures as soon as possible. The final match will now begin. Would Seigen Daidenshi and Masumi Surugiri please join me in the arena? Sasuke murmured, the last match. Finally, as he watched the two fighters, the Daidenshi in particular, jump down onto the field. What do you guys think? Sakura complained, I still can't get a read on his chakra. Same for his teammates. Naruto grimaced and remarked, well, if he's anything like his teammates, this fight will probably be over soon. The statements made by Naruto are incredibly true. The match was over the moment Hayate entered the ring. Seigen had drawn his sword in less than a second, slamming his opponent's head into a thin red mist, and sheathed his weapon before anyone could even blink. Thump. The body of Surugiri crumbled. Everything happened so quickly. The only people who had been able to track the Daidenshi's movements were the Sandaime Hokage, Anbu agents hidden in the room, Guy, Zabuza, Baki of Suna, and Kakashi. However, it was all just a blur to everyone else. And it was done now. After this many deaths on my record, there is no way I'll be a Chunin Proctor again, Hayate thought to himself as he waited for the sensei of the deceased to retrieve the body and then gestured for the victorious genin to come down to the arena. With this victory going to Seigen Daidenshi, the preliminary trials for the third stage of the Chunin selection exams are concluded. To those of you who won the right to complete in the final stage, congratulations. Now then, the Hokage will say a few words. Yes, as Hayate-san said, congratulations to each and every one of you for getting this far in these Chunin selection exams. Through your blood, sweat, and determination, you have earned the opportunity to become Chunin for your countries. Now, forgive an old man if I had already mentioned this earlier, but the final portion of the exams will be hosted in a large stadium and be seen by many important figures, including the daimyo and kages of each participating nation. During the finals, you will demonstrate to the judges and our guests the pinnacle of your abilities without restraints in battle against your fellow Chunin hopefuls, which is why, instead of having these matches right here, right now, the finals will be held in 1 month's time. Kira barked, "Wait, what? A month? Why so long?" It is for several reasons, Kira-chan. As I said before, the purpose of the Chunin selection exams is to showcase the current and future strength of your countries to potential clients and to deter enemies. For that purpose, the finals will be attended by many people, some of whom need time to organize their affairs before traveling. It also gives Konoha the time to prepare the event and make any necessary arrangements anyone might need. But there is a second purpose to this time period. As I said before, the entirety of the Chunin selection exams is a simulation of war. You have undergone trials testing your information gathering skills and proven your ability to survive unknown hostile environments with classified information. You've showed us that the potential for becoming Chunin in these aspects is present. Now, we, and the rest of the world, wish to see your prowess in battle, strategy, and most importantly, data application. Sarutobi chose to elucidate upon observing the perplexed expressions. You have seen what your fellow contenders can do, at least to an extent. Before the preliminaries, you were fighting an unknown opponent, attempting to learn everything you could about their abilities and tactics while masking your own. You've obtained much and now, it is time to apply it. Unlike the preliminaries, you will be allowed a full month to rest and improve your skills, adding whatever you deem beneficial to your arsenal in your upcoming fights against your rivals. Now, before you leave, I'm afraid we do need you to do one more thing before you are dismissed. Anko-chan here has a box with numbered papers. I would like each of you to select one and tell us what you get. Silently moving forward, Anko extended the box to each of the genin. The numbers were selected one at a time and reported to the proctors. Excellent, here are the matchups for the finals. First match, Rock Lee vs. Sakura Haruno. Tenten Higurashi vs. Heeso Keiyaku in the second match. Jiro Ogawa vs. Sasuke Uchiha in the third match. Fourth match, Shiro vs. Reiko Daidenshi. Fifth match, Sabaku no Gaara vs. Yugito ni Shino Aburame vs. Kira Mojiyu in the sixth match. Sabaku no Tamari vs. Takaya Daidenshi in the seventh match. Eighth match, Shikamaru Nara vs. Haku Yuki. Ninth match, Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze vs. Seigen Daidenshi. Sakura grinned and thought, perfect. I won't be able to defeat Reiko if I can't defeat him in a straight taijutsu match. This is the ideal examination. Sasuke, during this month long period, you and I will be working on getting a better handle of your new abilities. Are we really heading back to purgatory? With a prayer to the death god, Sasuke hoped that his month would not actually go to hell. No, we will not. As you currently are, you would not survive the horrors down there. There is still much you need to learn, but hopefully, by the time the month is over, you will be ready for the many challenges of hell. Oh, what joy. As usual, I have to deal with the Daidenshi. After I couldn't even keep up with his movements earlier, how am I supposed to beat him? Rei-chan, are you certain Kami-sama doesn't harbor some sort of secret animosity toward me? Naruto inquired, receiving a humorous response in return. Think positively, Naruto-kun. And don't worry, together, we'll overcome this. Indeed, brat. I can't let you lose to a dark god's servant. Even though you can't keep up right now, I can assure you that you will be able to keep up by the end of the month and then some. Thanks, guys. Is this a competition, I wonder? Does that imply that there will be just one winner? Tamari abruptly interrupted everyone's reverie with a question. Not at all. The Reikage, the Case Cage, and me will be presiding in addition to the judges. The judges and our decisions will be based on how well you perform in each match rather than how many wins you rack up. To be clear, winning does not guarantee that you will become a Chunin, rather, it just gives you additional opportunities to win over the judges. The Hokage said, taking a moment to process the information, there's a chance not one of you will become Chunin just as much as there's a chance all of you will. Now then, I'd say after today's events, a good night's rest is in order. I appreciate all of your hard work. All of you are fired. You will be escorted out of the forest by your Jonin instructors. In 1 month, we'll see you all again. Make sure you make the most of that time. Wishing you luck. What does being a shinobi entail? Any random civilian you ask this question to on the street will have a different response. According to others, shinobi are sworn protectors who will stop at nothing to defend their home, even if it means sacrificing their lives. Others claim that they are assassins, entrusted with carrying out the most heinous acts and darkest deeds in order to protect the defenseless populace. Additionally, some claim that shinobi are soldiers with exceptional abilities who could destroy or kill anyone who opposed them. While all of those responses are technically correct, they are also incorrect. Even after so many years, the general public still isn't able to see the truth or look beneath the surface. A genuine shinobi would always respond to the same questions, that being a shinobi meant leading a life marked by suffering, giving up everything, and dying. They were to become whatever their village desired. They would be a protector, an assassin, or a soldier if given a mission. For the sake of their friends and their house, they would sacrifice their lives and set aside all of their own ambitions, goals, and dreams. Their supernatural abilities and the powers they possessed were all acquired through sacrifice. A shinobi's life is difficult and replete with an excessive amount of loss and regret. They train for this reason. They train to fulfill the tasks assigned to them by their villages. They train to strengthen their bodies, develop new skills, and acquire knowledge that could help them in the field. They train to make sure they and their allies can make it back home alive. They train so they can give themselves an opportunity to pursue their own objectives and aspirations in between missions. A shinobi, even one who is also a champion of the gods, will train to defend all they cherish. For these reasons, Naruto has been training at the Uzumaki clan compound under the guidance of his holy celestial tenant, Reisei, for the past 2 weeks, from sunrise to sunset, following the preliminary matches of the Chunin selection exams. 9 days prior, they had learned that Naruto's celestial tenants could take control of his cage Bunshin, giving them a physical presence in the world. Reisei's ability to demonstrate techniques and even engage in sparring to help Naruto improve had proven invaluable during training, and today was no exception. After several hours of diligently following every command from the spirit, the young shinobi showed no signs of quitting. The blonde angel did not hesitate to charge toward the boulder that was now hurtling toward him, twice his size. Nitoryu Ei. Rashomon, 2 sword-style draw and resheath technique, Castlegate. With a loud boom and a flash of silver, the enormous boulder broke nearly exactly in half and fell onto the field littered with broken glass. The obviously weary swordsman stood a few meters beyond the split rock, his body drenched in perspiration as he battled to hold onto his swords and stay upright. 6 hours of non-stop training without a break for lunch or breakfast really wore down a guy, even with his legendary stamina. It was made worse by the fact that he wasn't wielding his customary indestructible swords. Rather, the blonde shinobi had been told by his celestial tenants to use fragile, brittle katanas, leaving him to concentrate on honing his craft and extracting the full force from the swords. Naruto was definitely feeling the effects of his rigorous training, and he hadn't realized until now how much he had come to rely on the durability of his swords. His arms burned from trying to control the blades so they wouldn't break, especially his forearms, wrists, and fingers. Reisei growled and nodded at Shizuki, saying, "Better, but still not perfect, again, Naruto. Kun. Focus on drawing strength from the swords. Do not force its power. Let the blades guide you and lend you their strength." With his arm strength multiplied by the Suiden, Gosuiwan no Jutsu, water release, great water arm technique, the former Kiri. Nin was throwing boulders at the blonde swordsman with great enthusiasm. Grunting, the Hazuka dug his bare fingers into the ground beneath him and heaved, extracting another enormous boulder that most likely weighed half a ton. "Whatever you say, Reisei. Sama." Then, with a fit of laughter, the shinobi threw the boulder at the weary teenager, who could only raise his arms in preparation. With all of his remaining strength, the young shinobi charged forward, saying, "Shit, Nitoryu Ei. Rashomon." two-sword style draw and resheath technique. Castle Gate. The boulder that had transformed into a projectile had split precisely in half in an instant. With a deafening boom, the two halves crashed onto the earth, gouging long furrows along the training field before Naruto himself fell to the ground, his chest heaving from gasping for air. That was your best one today, Naruto. Kun. Take a moment's rest and then we'll start again. From his sprawled position on the ground, Naruto was too exhausted to do much more than give a barely audible nod of gratitude. He was aware that, mainly as a result of Raisei's instruction, his kenjutsu had significantly improved over the previous few weeks. He could now declare with confidence that he was at least mid-tier, if not higher, in terms of swordsmanship, whereas previously he was about high Chunin or low Jonin. Perhaps even at Anbu level. All the techniques he was aware of, both Itoryu, one sword style, and Nitoryu, two sword style, had been examined and refined. Right now, the only things that could improve them were time and experience. Click. The latter, Raisei was more than happy to supply. Naruto was about to be beheaded when he was saved by sheer instinct, which he had developed over the last 2 weeks of surprise attacks. The spirit's sword was stopped just inches from Raisei's neck when his guard was hastily raised and his blade collided with it. He responded by slashing out with his other sword, which made his opponent retreat and gave Naruto enough time to get back up before Raisei could attack once more. For a split second, the two's eyes were locked, and then they were gone. The two fighters were traveling across the training ground at speeds faster than the human eye could follow, leaving only fleeting spark bursts from their clashes. As the two engaged in their dance of death and steel, they blocked, parried, and dodged every attack that came their way, strike after strike, move after move. Even spontaneously created moves were countered. Raisei and Naruto appeared to be very compatible, but they weren't. Naruto tried to hit Raisei's exposed side as he rolled over his most recent attack, but he was met with an unbreakable barrier. Unfazed, the blonde launched a barrage of incredibly fast thrusts and stabs before launching a nearly point-blank flying blade attack that bent his opponent's back while the razor sharp compressed air whizzed by. Very good. You're doing much better than before, Naruto. Kun, Raisei said, snubbing her student's question as she stood up straight. She struck, aiming for Naruto's eyes and causing a shower of sparks when he quickly blocked, saying, "But you still have room to grow." The angel was blinded by the bright display, which gave Raisei the opportunity to cut his arm shallowly before turning and stomping her foot into the shinobi's cheek. Wham! Naruto shot back, his body crashing across the earth in agony before swerving to a halt. The teenager pushed himself back onto his feet and complained, "Damn. She got me good with that one." Although his head was hurting the most, he knew Raisei was approaching and would attack shortly. "Come on, Naruto, get a grip. Remain persistent." Naruto shook his head and raised his head to see Raisei's sword in mid-swing. With a sudden jerk, he saw the gleaming metal pass mere millimeters from his eyes. Then, he charged forward, giving his opponent a forceful headbutt. Raisei was stunned by the force of the blow as well as her student's sudden, out-of-character maneuver. She stumbled backwards when Naruto leapt over her, landing a crushing axe kick while swinging both swords tangentially beside his legs. Planche et découper, cutting board. Raisei raised her blade in defense, but Naruto's special technique was so strong that it drove Raisei into the ground and almost broke her sword. However, the spirit didn't waste time in taking revenge. They sped off in opposite directions after their weapons collided once more, scattering sparks across the training ground. At that point, the fight intensified even further. Naruto performed an almost impossible feat in a split second by kicking his foot into the ground 5, 6, 7 times. He did this by using Chakra to speed up the movements of his legs. The angel was accelerated to breakneck speeds by the resulting force. He shot up into the sky and kicked the air hard enough to change directions mid-air, moving so quickly that even the recently arrived Anbu squad was unable to keep up with the blonde. Without his wings. Muisho, shadowless flight. Tenpo, sky step. Naruto was really scuttling across the heavens. In battle, he needed to be nimble and evasive against Raisei, the holy divine spirit, and he quickly became proficient in 2 of the Rokushiki, 6 powers, techniques. To Naruto's surprise, Raisei suddenly swung around and slammed her sword into his, saying, "Impressive, Naruto. Kun. You've improved your Muisho, shadowless flight, technique to just 3 steps shy of the base level of the Kosoku, light speed, technique. However, you're still not fast enough to avoid my eyes. Raisei suddenly had his fist pressed into Naruto's face. Blood and spittle sprayed into the air as the blow rocked his head back, dazing the teenager as he staggered back and fell to the ground. Raisei was suddenly faced with a sword pressing against his throat. He was defeated. Between breathless gasps, Naruto asked, How long was that? 4 minutes, 10 seconds, Raisei answered, taking the sword out of her pupil's neck and supporting him. A 12-second improvement from yesterday and a significant improvement from when we first started. Damn, I had hoped I would at least get past 5 minutes. The Holy Spirit grinned and said, Don't pout, Naruto-kun. It's unbecoming of a shinobi and a champion of Kami. One day, I am sure you will beat me. You have improved much these past few days. Suugii approached the two of them and said, Seriously, kid, you've gotten way better since when we first met. I would even say you're at the apprentice level to be a member of the Seven Swordsmen. It took me 2 years to get there and you did it in just a few months. You and your teammates are freaking insane. Naruto smiled. He said, I'm pretty sure my ability to basically sleep off anything and being a champion of the gods is accelerating my growth. Same for Sasuke and Sakura, wherever they are. Sasuke and Sakura had made the decision to train outside the village for the month, with Amy and Ryoshi joining Sakura. Though he was unsure of their whereabouts, he was confident they would be safe because each of them was accompanied by 2 highly skilled shinobi. It goes without saying that Naruto chose to remain in the village in order to avoid being ambushed by the Daidenshi should he venture outside of Konoha's protective walls. After all, their main objective was him. Nevertheless, the angel's life was going well, as seen by the rigorous training Raisei and Suugii were providing him. At this rate, you'll surpass me soon. Don't sell yourself short. As it stands now, you're still better than me, especially in Kenjutsu. For now, yeah, I'm going to have to up my training to make sure you don't leave me in your dust. I would be happy to spar with you, Suzuki-san, while Naruto-kun sees to the Anbu who have been waiting for us to finish. Naruto gave a startled blink. Huh? The previously in awe Anbu squad materialized in front of them just in time. Genin Uzumaki. Namikaze, declared the head of state. Hokage. Sama has requested your presence. You are to report to his office by noon. The angel nodded and rose slowly. That gives me time to grab a bite to eat and shower, he said. Thank you. I'll see him soon. Naruto entered the Hokage's office at precisely noon. Even as he stood before his adoptive grandfather, there was a discernible sag in his posture, the weariness of the rigorous training showing through. Nevertheless, he greeted the man with his customary zeal. Hey, Gigi. The old shinobi grinned as he looked up from his paperwork. Hello, Naruto-kun. You look tired, you must be training very hard. With his excitement slightly dimming at the thought, Naruto muttered, I need to give in what's coming. He dismissed it with haste. Anyways, you called? Indeed I did, though we are still waiting for 2 more. Ah. Here they are. Naruto was taken aback to see that the 2 people they had been waiting for were his pals. Haku-chan. Tenten-chan. Konnichiwa, Naruto-kun, grinned the 2 brunettes. Sarutobi watched the 3 teenagers interact and couldn't help but smile. Especially in an assassination world, his old heart always rejoiced to see such strong ties between comrades. More than that, to witness his own surrogate grandson, who had previously cried out to the sky about becoming Hokage while facing unjustified hostility from the villagers, become a role model for his generation. Naruto had swept the globe, bringing numerous formidable shinobi into Konoha's armed forces and fortifying the force as a whole. This was their moment, for sure. Sarutobi laughed, thinking, look at me, getting all philosophical and poetic. He eagerly anticipated the day he could finally retire, but in the interim, as the soldiers in front of him and as the Hokage, he had obligations to the village. If we may start now, the 3 teenagers said, getting to their feet right away. They nodded, though it was obvious they were curious as to why they were being granted such access. Thank you all for coming. Now, Genin Hikuyuki and Genin Tenten Higurashi, I am hereby granting you both level 6 security clearance. This gives you access to the operations and details regarding Project Crimson Leaf. Understand that the information I am about to reveal to you is classified and punishable by execution. Do you accept these terms? She said. Very well, Naruto. Kun is already aware of what this is about and time is of the essence, so I will be brief. We have reason to believe that in the coming weeks, Konohagakure will be attacked by one of the hidden villages, most likely Suna. The eyes of Tenten and Haku grew wide. Tenten exclaimed, "Wait, what?" Haku yelled, "I thought Konoha and Suna were allies." Grudgingly, the Hokage smiled. If only such things held more merit in the shinobi world. Unfortunately, that is not the case here. As it currently stands, our intelligence points at Suna being the most likely attacker, and it's also likely that Otto will join in. Tenten inquired, "What about Kumo?" Based off our findings, we are currently working under the assumption that they are not a part of this attack, but that does not mean they will join in once the invasion begins. Sarutobi exhaled. Regardless, we are making every preparation we can in the event that they do participate. That is why I have asked for the three of you. How can we help, Gigi? You will be layering traps at specific points around the village for the next 3 days. Tenten. Chan, you have a talent for creating very effective storage ejection seals while Haku. Chan and Naruto. Kun can supply weapons made of ice for the ammunition. It is our hope that the traps will thin the numbers of the invaders and serve as an early warning system in case they bypass or suppress our patrols. Haku objected, but Hokage. Sama, our ice creations aren't permanent. Even inside the seals, the chakra will eventually fade and the ice will lose their forms. I am aware of that limitation. That is why I would like you to first find my old student, Jiraiya. He's a Fuinjutsu master and should be able to modify your seals to either keep the ice in suspension or, failing that, layering a battery seal on top of your traps to keep them stable. Tenten insisted, "Wait, Jiraiya? Of the Sannin? He's here in Konoha?" "Indeed, he is. Now, here are your mission details." They specify where each trap should be set and the type of weaponry each one should have. There will be other shinobi out there also preparing traps. If questioned, the challenge word is blooming leaf. Response is new dawn. If you encounter anyone who does not challenge or respond correctly, you have full authorization to capture that individual and bring them in for questioning, Sarutobi said, handing Naruto a scroll. Once you have finished for the day, please send my old student to my office. Anyo, are we meeting Jiraiya? Sama out in the field? Haku inquired. The Hokage snorted with laughter. As professional as that would be, unfortunately, no. If I'm not mistaken, my old student is probably at the hot springs, no doubt peeping. The temperature in the room dropped to freezing instantly. The cold anger Haku and Tenten felt at the thought of yet another pervert made it so that the hidden Anbu agents could see their breaths. Come on, Naruto. Kun. Before he knew it, the two girls were dragging him out of the office while holding his arms in a death grip. Wait, what? Why are you taking this out? Oh. Ow. Those are fucking stairs. Don't draw. Ow. Damn it, girls. Stop. Ow. Sarutobi couldn't help but smile at the mistreatment Naruto was receiving from his transient allies and their feisty female rage. The old Hokage whirled his chair to face his window, leaned back, and gestured dismissively at the Anbu agents hidden behind his back. He's grown. The voice came out of nowhere, but the Sandame didn't even flinch. Even before he dismissed his guards, he knew the Yugure commander had been in the room. It was the reason he'd given them the order to depart, to allow the two to talk privately. Sarutobi sighed and took a deep drag from his pipe. Yes, he has. His confrontation with Orochimaru, the upcoming invasion, and the meeting with the Daidenshi has forced him to change in preparation for what's to come, he said. He looked at the silent commander and said, "It saddens me to see one so young carry so much on his shoulders. But at the same time, I cannot help but be proud of him. I'm sure you feel the same. You're introducing him to Jiraiya." Yes. It is time they met. Do you think he'll be alright? Naruto. Kun? I'm sure he'll be fine. But Jiraiya, well, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a few bruises when I see him later. The enigmatic shinobi grinned pitifully behind his mask. I envy him, even though he'll get hell for what he did, for what he had to do. Jiraiya can at least still be with him, unlike me. I just wish. I understand, Sarutobi reassuringly muttered. Perhaps it's time we change that rule. The Sandane was given a sharp look by the commander. W. What? Or at least bend it. Naruto. Kun, as well as his teammates, are heavily involved in the divine. That is a fact now. I've decided that once all this is over, we will introduce his entire team to your organization. The Yugure commander, obviously stunned by what he had just heard, looked at the elderly Hokage as silence descended upon the office. The man gulped down. Are you sure? The Hokage gave a nod. And with that, the man's blonde hair and blue eyes came back into full view as he threw back his hood and took off his mask. A broad smile then appeared on his face. And with that, he vanished in a burst of golden light, saying, I'll tell the others right away. Yes, the time has come. But the question is how he will react once he's learned the truth, Minato. I don't see Jiraiya Sama anywhere. Don't call him that, Haku-chan. A pervert that peeps does not deserve your respect, no matter how strong he is. I agree with Naruto. Kun. Seriously, what kind of self? Respecting shinobi does that kind of thing? Having only recently arrived at the well-known spa, the three teenagers were already actively looking for the fabled Sannin. Right now, they were out of luck, but that was mostly because they were reluctant to really investigate the women's side of the hot springs. They didn't want to consider that a highly esteemed Konoha figure would act in such a despicable way. But then, Naruto complained, Kakashi. Sensei does read smut in public. Why did you feel the need to surround me with perverts, Kami? Sama? He let out a sigh. With his swords drawn, the blonde angel charged past his friends in a Muisho, shadowless flight, in an instant. Come on, girls, we should see if the pervert is really peeping like Gigi. He exclaimed. Watching in dismay as their friend charged toward an older man with long, spiky white hair who was visible through a small crack outside the women's side of the hot springs, Haku and Tenten could only stare in shock. Sadly, Naruto's yell had caught his attention, and he quickly turned around, arched an eyebrow, and produced a ram seal. He was hidden from view by a thick cloud of smoke, but a sudden gust of wind blew it all away, exposing the man sitting atop a massive toad, clad in samurai armor and brandishing katanas. Click. Naruto was unexpectedly locked in a battle with, of all things, a toad, as swords clashed in a dazzling display of sparks. The amphibian suddenly sprang out its tongue and gave him a sucker punch to the stomach. Gyuh. Blast. Naruto. Kun. The old man looked disgustedly at the pool that Naruto had fallen into and moaned, Be quiet, Gaki. If the ladies had heard you and ran off, what am I going to do? He wore matching colored pants and a short green kimono. Above this was a red haori with no sleeves, and a large scroll was fastened to his back. Unlike the majority of shinobi, he wore an unusual forehead protector made of thick, pointed metal emblazoned with the kanji for oil rather than a village symbol. As the two girls prepared to attack, Naruto suddenly appeared out of nowhere, his wings flaring as he hovered in midair, shocking them both in the process. He glared down at the elderly man, his right fist glowing. Oh, you're going to pay for that. The elderly man just smiled. Oh? What's this? Omoshiroi, interesting, you look just like an angel. And that attack, he extended his hand. To everyone's surprise, chakra started to gather over the old man's palm, swirling and condensing the power of a hurricane into a perfect sphere. Let's see if it can stand up to this. Naruto was aware of that method. There was only one other person who would be familiar with that technique after his father passed away, so he could recognize it anywhere. Despite this, he was not going to back down. Bring it. Saiten. Hoshiakari, Holy Release, Starlight. The old man watched, his smile growing even wider, as what looked like a falling star was fired at him. Just feet before the falling star could make contact, the man pushed his whirling chakra sphere into the center of the star, saying, Excellent. Let's see how strong it is. Rasengan, Spiraling Sphere. The clash of the two fierce attacks was a brilliant show of whirling lights. Naruto, Haku, and Tenten could sense the immense forces vying for control even from a distance, and for a brief while, it appeared as though the angel's strike would prevail. That is, until the enigmatic man began to show off his strength. Whack. And with that, Naruto's fame vanished. That's not too bad, Gaki, the man said. Your attack almost matched a low-level Rasengan, Spiraling Sphere. And those wings, said to be blessed by Kami. Sama herself, you must be Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said, so you know who I am, Jiraiya of the Sannin, as he withdrew his wings and returned to the ground next to Tenten and Haku. One of the strongest shinobi in the world. The Toad Sage, I didn't know you were a pervert though. The two kunoichis standing on either side of Naruto instantly glared at him in anger after hearing that remark. However, all they received in return was a wave of indifference. Oh, shut up. I'm just conducting research. Clearly, you do not understand the finer qualities of women. Research my ass. You're peeping on bathing women. Naruto used to be a very noisy person who could break glass with the volume of his voice if he set his mind to it. What do you get when you combine that with flawless elemental wind manipulation to create distance and a ton of open space? Kaya hhhh. Pervert. Run, girls. No. Baka, baka, baka. Why did you do that? You ruined my research. Like I care, you old pervert. Brat. How dare you accuse me of being a pervert? Like hell. We have fucking proof that you are. Sadly, Jiraiya stroked his imaginary assets and silenced him with the next sentence. The man performed a strange dance throughout his introduction, ending with him standing on his toad with a familiar orange covered book in his right hand and a proud smirk on his face. I'm a super pervert. Mwahahahaha. Now, behold. I am Myoboku Mountain's sage of the toad spirits. Also known as the Toad Hermit. All WHO lay their eyes on me stare in awe. The great writer of ICHA and Sannin Jiraiya. Sama. There was a moment of silence, and sure enough, the crows saw their opportunity and swooped into the scene, cawing in voices that seemed to be saying, Aho. Aho. Idiot. The three genin couldn't contain their perspiration. I can't believe he just did that. Are we sure he's a Sannin? Unfortunately, yes. He's the only one in the world who has a contract with the Toad Summons. Jiraiya pouted at the three genin's apathetic response to his introduction, then sprang off his summon and waved it away. Well, kids? What do you want? Haku took a step forward. She stated, the three of us have been drafted for a special mission that requires your assistance and expertise, making sure to omit any specifics to avoid being overheard. With a raised eyebrow, Jiraiya smoldered. Right, follow me then. We have a lot to do. After 5 hours of intense deliberation and laborious modifications to Tenten's storage ejection seal to integrate Jiraiya's Chakra battery seal, North Sectors 1, 2, and 3 should have enough traps to fend off an army. On the day of the finals, the traps were made to fire Senbon in a broad spray whenever they sensed the presence of a Chakra signature nearby. They would have taken further action, but in the middle, Naruto saw Jiraiya spying on a number of people lounging by a nearby river. Obviously, the angel lost it. Hyeten. Hakyoku Okami, Ice Release, Arctic Wolf. Wait, what? Sikkim. Woof. Call off the wolves, Gaki. Naruto growled and used a Muisho, Shadowless Flight, to chase after his wolves, saying, like hell, ya fucking pervert. Saiten. Hoshiakari, Holy Release, Starlight. Naruto was chasing the perverted Sannin when dozens of bright stars shot out of his hands. He cackled happily as the attacks connected and literally fried his ass. Itai. I'm the great Jiraiya. Sama. I deserve respect. You deserve nothing but my swords up your ass. Hyeten. Hyoga no Jasho, Ice Release, Rising Glacier. Jiraiya was traveling at the speed of a chakra burst and was unable to stop in time when a massive glacier suddenly appeared in front of her, so. Wham. Yes, exactly ran into the glacier. Oh, and the wolves should not be overlooked. Tenten and Haku were both amused and irritated as they observed everything. This is just sad, Tenten said, averting his gaze from the scene where the ostensibly powerful and revered Toad Sage was howling in agony as an ice wolf used its razor sharp teeth to latch onto his posterior. Haku remarked, kind of makes you wonder what Tsunade Sama is like. I'm sure Tsunade Sama is a model kunoichi. After all, she's a legendary medic. Nin and has contributed more to the advancement of medicine than anyone else. Ever. There's no way she'd do anything shameful like her teammates. Achoo. Bless you, Tsunade Sama. Ah, hick. Thanks. Now, would you like another card? Of course, hick. Hit me. Tsunade. Sama takes 1, and that's 3 of a kind. 9 high. Ha. Beat that, Jin. San. Hick. Full house. What? Ha 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 ha. Damn. You beat me, hick. Oi. Somebody get me some more sake, hick. Tenten said, well, I guess we're done for the day, as she packed away her supplies. She turned to see the depressing scene where her enraged blonde friend was stomping on Jiraiya. Hey. Oh, Naruto. Kun. We ought to be returning soon. Startled, the angel raised his head. Is it time already? Hey. We were asked to report in before dusk by Hokage. Sama. With a tongue. Click. Naruto cast a menacing gaze at their superior's quivering form. The angel said, looks like you're in luck, Arrow. Sennin. Taking Jiraiya by one leg and pulling the Sannin back to the village across the forest floor. Gigi wanted to talk to you after we finished here and I have training later, so I guess I won't be able to kick your ass anymore today. Oh my god, what a brat. Absent deference. As one of the Sannin, I am the Toad Sage. How could you treat me in such a manner? Jiraiya spat out wads of dirt and leaves as she sobbed. An eyebrow twitched on Naruto. Because you should be assisting us with the mission instead of wasting an hour spying on women and calling yourself a perverted idiot. What kind of shinobi does that, really? The kind that knows how to multitask and understands the finer things in life. You. Have you not answered that question previously? At least 5 times a week, yeah. Do you realize how utterly pathetic that is? Always so grave. It's really time for you to relax and enjoy yourself. Perhaps go out with one of your lady friends, Jiraiya said with a perversely giddy giggle. I can already tell they'll grow up to be real beauties, especially the Hyeten user. Initially, it appeared as though Naruto would disregard the remark. Without saying anything, he just kept dragging Jiraiya by the leg through the forest and back toward the village, shocking his friends by staying silent despite the Sannin practically having sex with them. Wham! Up until the moment he crashed Jiraiya into a tree. Whoops! He exclaimed, sounding phony sorry. I apologize for that. It must have been a muscle spasm from all of my previous exercise. Even though Naruto really tried, he was unable to hide his evil smile from his face while Jiraiya groaned in agony. You bastard. To Tenten and Haku's amusement, Naruto responded smugly, PSH, you deserve it, Arrow. Sennin. Just so we're clear, if you talk about my friends like that again, I swear by the gods I'll find Tsunade. Sama and tell her what you've been doing. The Sannin closed his mouth quickly. Tenten pulled Haku back and said, you know, he really cares about you, so they could have a private conversation. Haku let out a rueful sigh. I am aware. He's very charming. I wish he would ask me out, but I feel like something is stopping him from trying, the Ice Maiden remarked, her lovely face displaying a frown. How about you? Throughout the entire preliminary round, I noticed you staring at Neji. I am aware of your activities. Don't try to bring up something else. Tenten chastised, her tone belying her slight blush. If he doesn't have the courage to ask you out, then why don't you do it? Haku's blush deepened instantly. Me? She squeaked. But. Without a but. Show initiative. We are, after all, kunoichi. I don't know. Come on. You seem to like him, and based on his behavior around you, I believe he feels the same way. You ought to attempt it. Tenten squealed and bounced around, enjoying her role as matchmaker. In the event that the Ice Maiden persisted, she still had one more weapon at her disposal over a fellow kunoichi. But please. And cue the doggy. Pout. All of Haku's resolve was destroyed by one glance at those incredibly endearing eyes that were brimming with unshed tears. All right, she uttered. With a tiny squeal, Tenten threw her arms around Haku and gave her a tight hug. Fantastic. Now would be a great time to ask him out. What? Haku gave a squawk. Oh no. Take a look at me. I'm filthy, perspiring, and all that. Oh, please, hurry up. You are aware that is untrue. You look fantastic. No, I don't. You do, indeed. We haven't put in a lot of overtime. Hurry up. Get your man, please. I'm not sure, Tenten. Chan. I don't know if I'm prepared yet. And besides, you're just offering excuses now. Okay, then. It goes without saying that I have to take over for you if you lack the bravery to do it. Wait, what? Unfortunately for the Ice Maiden, Tenten jogged over to her blonde friend and grabbed Jiraiya's other leg, showing no signs of letting Haku have the last word. You know, Naruto. Kun, Jiraiya. Sama is right, as much as I hate to agree with this super pervert. It would be better if you took a break because you've been working way too hard lately. The brunette gave a chirp. So, why don't I take care of escorting Jiraiya? Sama to the Hokage, and you do something relaxing like, oh, I don't know, a date? Everything was moving too quickly. Naruto was limited to blinking and a thoughtful, huh? You concur, then. Fantastic. I am aware of someone who would be ideal for you. She's actually here with us, in fact. Wait, I didn't. Have fun, you too. Do not act in a way that I would not. And with that, Tenten ran away, followed quickly by Jiraiya, who couldn't help but giggle at the completely bewildered looks on Haku and Naruto's faces. Yeah. What just took place? I'm not sure. The two teenagers did nothing but stand there, their minds struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. In essence, their friend had set them up on a date and then left without even asking permission. I mean, really, what the heck? For this, they weren't prepared. Heck, it was the first time either of them had gone on a date. Still, though, this was their opportunity. Haku found it hard to believe that this was actually happening. At last, she was going on a date with her angel, her crush. And to think that they were once adversaries less than half a year ago. The speed at which things had changed at the time was astounding. The next day, she was in each other's arms and their relationship transcended the boundaries of friendship into something more, while she was saving her father figure from death and organizing the best way to destroy Naruto and his group. Something more profound, bordering on divine. Despite disclosing her history of bloodshed, Naruto did not condemn, feel sorry for, or treat her with contempt. Just gentleness and a heart that is open. That was the exact moment when a crush started. And that flame has gotten bigger ever since. Haku was aware that she had developed feelings for her angel. Her heart was racing just by gazing at Naruto's beaming face. However, a pervasive doubt had also begun to grow inside of her. Though it had never been specifically addressed at anyone, she had seen Naruto display a look of longing on his face on several occasions when he thought no one was watching. Haku didn't really start to think about it until now. Was her angel falling for another person? If so, by whom? The Ice Maiden's heart broke at the mere notion of Naruto being with someone else, yet oddly enough, it gave her a strange kind of bravery. It was imperative for her to come clean before it was too late. She had to give it a shot. In the same way, Naruto, a young teenager, was going through a wide range of feelings and ideas, all of which were focused on the one woman he had fallen in love with. And the one woman who had disappeared from his life for over a month in a strange way. Mei-chan. How ought he to proceed? Without her, the last few weeks had been unbearable. The only person Naruto was aware of who had consistently stood by him was her. She had been a sage mentor, an understanding listener, a kind friend, and a consistent companion. Plus an inaccessible crush. He had to face the truth about himself. Meigetsu was a demon lord, a divine immortal with unfathomable strength who would live forever. Thousands of years old already, she had seen things he could never begin to imagine and, most importantly, had a mate, someone she loved more than life itself. Though it hadn't quite dawned on Naruto until recently, he had always known that Meigetsu would never be able to reciprocate his feelings. Recalling his pledge to Reisei to make an effort to move on, Naruto thought, it's time I moved on. He wanted to stop experiencing such agony and heartbreak in his life. And he did harbor some romantic feelings for Haku, if he was being completely honest with himself. The question was, could he actually pull it off? Could he move on and give up on Meigetsu? He had a gut feeling that he would be drawn to her once more the moment she came back from wherever it was she had vanished to. Thus, was he capable of it? Might he make that move? Could he accept someone else and get over his heartbreak? Someone who was equally lovely in her own unique manner. Someone with a gentle soul and a kind heart. Someone that Naruto was attracted to and could not resist. The warmth he felt whenever he looked at her, the quickening of his heart, the protectiveness he felt for her. His breath was labored even now, and his heart was racing, but could he really take the risk? The clearing fell silent for a while the two collected their thoughts and decided what to do. At last, their gaze met, and they gradually started to approach each other. Their hearts raced with every step that brought them closer, and as they gazed into each other's eyes, their blushes got deeper. Too soon, they were waiting for the other to initiate contact as they stood inches apart. With their lips twitching toward each other, the two thought, I can do this. Then came the 5 words that Haku would say that would alter everything. Forget her, be with me. It was barely audible, barely a whisper, but it was desperate. Pleading with him to take that risk and give in to the emotions that roared through his pale pink lips. To simply obey his instincts and plant a kiss on the lovely woman he held in his arms right now. Thus, he acted.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.